What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to Auto Transport Intel. I know we got a lot going on, right? So, number one, yeah, we're up against the World Series tonight, so that's going to be tough. I figured why not, if a lot of the audience is missing because they're watching the game. Game 6 of the Astros versus the Nationals. And if the Astros win, it's over. Okay, so we're up against that. And so this is the Halloween-themed show. Yeah, go ahead, I like a bit of a theme to the show, so, why not, man? Let's do Halloween, because you know what? It's appropriate, because what is a dispatcher, anyways? Is that some kind of made-up outfit? What is going on there? Listen, if this is your first time in Auto Transport Intel, I want to welcome you guys. I always run the car hauler, and I welcome you. I'm not always dressed as a king or a knight or whatever this costume is. But I do want to say hello to the live chat. We're going to do that in a couple minutes. I want you to, say hello. Let me know what you're going to dress up as on Halloween. Sure, why not? And then we're going to go into the industry news. And I've got a lot of different things that actually this is going to be a really full show because check this out. Not only, of course, will I do the information superhighway at the 25-minute mark. That's right. If you're watching on demand and you're not live, you can just skip right ahead. Check out the video descriptions. I spent a lot of time on that. You can just click on time codes and jump ahead because check this out. At the 30-minute mark, approximately, we're going to have the What's a Dispatcher discussion. Ziggy is going to be with us live from AATA. Also, we're going to have Ty, Sue, Muzi, Kandy, and me, of course. I'm Jay. I'm the host of Auto Transport Intel. That's going to be amazing. There's been a lot of discussion. This actually goes back to 2 months ago. I had Hank Seaton on the show. He is going to make a repeat performance tonight. He's going to be at the one hour mark. Hank is going to join us live. Hank is an attorney with a ton of experience in case law. We're going to actually cover some of that. 2 months ago, I did a show called Transport Legal. The topic came up of whether dispatchers are illegal or not. So this is a follow-up. This has been on the books for a while, and I'm excited about it, of course. Also, hey, can you see me and hear me okay? Please let me know if the audio's okay, if the video's okay. And I think we're okay. Okay, good. So we're going to keep on rolling, but let me know if the audio is loud enough, too loud, loud enough, whatever. If the outfit is too much, too many pumpkins and skeletons and scary stuff. So I'm pretty excited about it. Anyways, listen, guys, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come
Transport 31 at yahoo.com. Give us a call today.
And by the way, you're going to learn more about why it is okay for Sue to advertise herself as such, because she has taken all the precautions, which we're going to talk about tonight. I mean, listen, I did the dispatcher training series. I used to be a dispatcher, and then I did the dispatcher training series, gave away all the information. I don't dispatch anymore. And thank goodness, because I tell you what we're going to be talking about tonight, this is the height of what you need to know if you're involved in dispatching. Is this where you find dispatchers, says Ty. Hey, what's up, Ty? Welcome back to the show, buddy. We're going to be talking to you soon. Sue is with us. Hey, what's going on, Sue? Bad Apples, Bill. Happy Tuesday, car people. Welcome, Bill. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Brian Peps is with us. Hey, what's up, Brian? Thanks for tuning in. Mark at Superflow. Hey, what's up? We love dispatchers, so hope they are not illegal. Yeah, I know, man. It's kind of weird. I've been diving into this legal info a lot lately, and this is going to be really interesting. Not to mention, by the way, I can't believe the way some people talk about dispatchers. Like, dispatchers are con artists and scammers and stuff. Dude, no, they're not. Do you want me to dive into the list of carriers that are asking for dispatchers, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Because nobody forced all these people to look for dispatchers. I just don't get the animosity. What is going on? Hey Brian, how's everything going? Acme Transport, welcome back. It's been long 10 months overseas. Wow. Hey, welcome back. Awesome. Carlos, what's up? ACB Logistics. The audio's good. King J, thank you so much. Thank you, Kimberly, for joining us in the live chat. Appreciate it. Mark from Superflow's here. Saduvi Marine. Hey, nice costume. You like that? Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I got the crown this morning. Already had the whatever king knight outfit that is. Put the pumpkins together. It's pretty festive, really. It's going great. I hope you're legal. Yeah. Well, she is. Love it, Jay. My costume didn't come in. Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You know what? I'll take one for the team. I do all the time. Jim Underwood, how do dispatchers operate without the bond and the MC? Jim, that is a great question. Here's the thing, Jim. Here's what I want to ask you. Have you ever actively looked for a dispatcher, like sent an email or called somebody, hey, do you want to be my dispatcher? There's a lot of people doing that. I'm going to pull out some of those emails because it's not like dispatchers are running around going, hey, man, listen, I can score you a dispatch, okay? Like, that's not happening. There are hundreds of people looking for dispatchers. I don't know who started this. Chicken or the egg, dispatcher, the carrier. I don't know. But again, let's stop pretending that dispatchers invented a problem. They did not. There is a need. Anyways, we're going to go into it. But I don't even need to say that. I'm not a dispatcher. But I understand. By the way, dispatching sucks. It's a hard job. What else we got here? I'm dressing up as a car hauler. That's a good outfit, dude. Davis 787. Hello, everyone. Davis here, dispatcher for Rana Transport, Hot Wheels Logistics. Yeah, see, dude, here for the industry news. Welcome, dude. Welcome. Perfect. Some of this news is going to shock you. The audio's good. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Sound and look good. Thanks, Mark. Take off the crown. I can't, man. I like the crown. Dude, how often do you get to wear a crown? Not when you're a dispatcher. Sue, I'm Legal Eagle. Mark, Bogey Joe Sr., the school bus is now a 22-foot flatbed. Getting ready to pull 2 and 3 cars. Cool, man. You like the crown? Thanks, Trucker Life. I appreciate that. I like it too. Besides, apparently, if you're a dispatcher, you're, dressing up in costume because there is no dispatcher. This industry only knows brokers. Did you know that? This whole dispatcher thing has gotten really cockamamie. It's so whacked out. Truckify and Superflow here tonight. Joe Buckley, Chicago. What's up, Joe? Thanks for tuning in. I'm speaking the truth. Man, everybody has an opinion about a dispatcher. Dispatcher's just trying to book loads for carriers and keep them loaded. Oh, and make 1 million phone calls and get certificates of insurance. Oh, and verify loads and make sure the car's really there. Is that such a problem? I don't really get it. So strange. Jim Underwood in Houston. Joderson Goulart. Hey, everyone. Fox Car Hauling just got here. What's up, Joderson? Thanks for tuning in, man. I'm telling you, we're bringing the knowledge tonight. Seriously, it's crazy. Nobody has a problem with an honest dispatch service like Sue. It's the ones that take advantage of people for their own selfish interest. There is a need for great, honest dispatchers. So here's the thing is, what are the dispatchers? I'm not saying there aren't. Listen, there's dishonest people everywhere you go. Do we write off all politicians? No. I mean, you got good and bad. Business, stock market, financial investments, what? Cell phone service. I mean, it applies to everything. So, it seems like there's this vendetta against dispatchers. It's strange. Now, listen, I know, I have said, if you're relying on a dispatcher eating off the load boards for your business strategy, it's not a perfect business strategy. It's not as good as a perfect phone call. But, I mean, at the same time, I realize what it's like to be a dispatcher. Dispatchers is just trying to keep drivers loaded. I don't know. I don't get it. Listen, we're going to go into industry news here in a second. I think you're going to want to stick around for that. Thanks for saying hello in the live chat. Please keep tuning in. We're going to be right back.
Hey guys, Ty, CTS Business Coaching. I connect dealers, auctions, and carriers. If you're a dealer and you're not getting your inventory on the lot in 5 days ready to sell, you've got a problem. It's called interest. like I'm telling you something you don't know. Give me a call. I can connect you with an auction and a carrier, and you can get your cars on the lot in 5 days or less. 417-483-2764. Thanks and have a great day.
All right, welcome back to Auto Transport Intel. I'm Jay. I'm your host. I welcome you back to the show. Listen, by the way, hey, Michael's with us. What's going on, Michael? Thanks for tuning in. TDK Transports is with us. Thank you guys for tuning in. You know, here we go. I said that, here's what I said. I said I'm going to pull up some emails. Again, this is, I've heard several people say things like, you know, these dispatchers running around out here and all this stuff. Really? Okay. Hey, Jay. Oh, wait, you can't see that. Here, let's do this. Hey, Jay, we're looking for an auto transport dispatcher. Either you or if you can recommend someone possibly. Okay, there's one. Hey, what's up? I need a car hauling dispatcher. Let's do another one. Auto dispatching, another email. Hey, I was given your email address to contact you. I'm looking for an auto dispatcher. Let's do another one. Need services. Please give me a call when time permits to discuss dispatching. Hey, there's my name. I've been watching your videos. Very thankful. I'm also planning on opening a business soon. Wonder if you'd call me and tell me how much you charge for dispatching. Dispatch. Let's see. Here's another one. Hey, Jay, love the channel. Very informative. Helps a lot. Do you have a recommendation for a dispatcher? Let's see. I'm in need of a good dispatcher. Let's do another one. Hey, we need a dispatcher. I mean, seriously, I have more. These are just the ones that I pulled out of the hat. Hey, I'm just starting a new auto transport business, 3-car hauler without property, looking to deal with an expert dispatcher. Okay, so guys, right? I can prove email after email. There are carriers looking for dispatchers. Dispatchers, I don't think created this idea. Hey, I'm gonna scam guys out of their money. I don't think so. Okay? And that's why this is the show. This is the Are Dispatchers Illegal show because, number one, dispatchers did not create this idea. I don't know who did. I'd love to know who created the idea that everybody should get a dispatcher. And then why then, now that there are dispatchers, does everybody have a problem with it? So strange, man. Okay, let's go into industry news. I know. Got to keep this thing moving. It's 8:14. Hey, there's the truck, girlfriend, gas, and food. That's about right. Or, you know, good food, gas, food, whatever you want. But the truck, right? That's where the money goes. And if you're not paying the bills, you're stuck in traffic. Okay, this is what you imagine. Okay, right? Gate ready, everybody's ready, and this is what you get. All trucks at a load, unload on the service road. Awesome. Okay, so you go try to do that, and okay. It's kind of full, there's cars everywhere. Awesome. You know, it's like the grocery store. Doesn't the grocery store, you know, kind of have in mind how they're going to get their inventory before? Okay. By the way, let me do this. I don't want that screen to go away. Okay. Let's look at some rates. That's always a really fun time. Because as dispatchers, you guys know this is what you do all day. You stare at awesome rates. 2 vehicles, California to Massachusetts. 1,500 COD. Snatch that up. Okay. 3 cars for 17 cents a mile each. See, this is what you do, right? What happens is, and by the way, the dispatcher can do this, but you know what? Since dispatchers are all illegal, I guess the drivers will have to do this, so they're driving along, and they're trying to text the broker. You know what happens. Okay, so you text the broker, and you say, okay, so you got this, right? And there's, okay, it's 1 car listed. I can pick up and deliver tomorrow. That's the text. And the broker replies, really? And the broker replies, okay, so that's part 1. And the broker replies, actually, it's 2 cars, both run and drive. Like, sweet old lady. Oh, $225 each? No, $225 for both. Can you do it? Not for that price. Cheapest I'd do it. $160 each. Not even on Central going each. Dude, no way, dude. Oh, that was fun. Okay, well, I guess you can't do that anymore with your dispatcher. You have to do that while you're driving. Okay. That's the law. Cancel the order if you will not pick up my car. It's not good if you took this order. You're driving down the road, trying to read this. It's not good if you took this order and now want more because it's not a run and drive in Copart. They should have a forklift warehouse also have. Let me know if you're going to cancel. And then you're typing, while you're driving because you can't have a dispatcher. It's not good to list as run and drive. It's an in-op. Cancel it. As I said, if you didn't listen to me carefully, I'm not working in Copart, as they mentioned. That car is a run and drive with you're crashing. I put in dispatch that it's run and drive. Why you can't load if pick up delivery location has forklifts? Maybe this is easy to do while driving. Sure, no problem. LOL. LOL. I suffer from CHS. I will, huh? It's a family show. Let's see here. Okay, vehicle inspection report. Yep, somebody's had it. Front end is like my ex-wife. Let's see, Joe Buckley. Hey, Joe Car Shipper's with us. Hey, this is only because the current load boards are super, super inefficient, Jay. Cares he needed someone to sit and look for loads. Right, good point. Well, with the way the laws are, you're going to have to speed up that technology, huh, Joe? I'm kidding. Hey, 35 cents. Oh, $35 for the whole thing? That's fantastic. Dude, tow yards won't even do that. Really? Well, put it on one of the major load boards. They'll move it. Yeah, we're not taking new carriers right now, but we got this sweet $35 deal for you. Who is chasing money that OTO owes them? I know, I blanked out. Do you see what I did there? Because I don't like to, I don't like to call, listen, if I don't have proof of the problem, I don't call it out. And even then, I'm compassionate. Hey, Jay, we chatted a few months ago, gave me great advice. Now I'm confused about something. I need to know your opinion. 2 days ago, we got a load from one company and driver must have to pick up a car before 7. He's there at 6:30. Turns out it's the wrong address. Oh, gee, well, if you had a dispatch, you could have checked on the address. But hey, you know what? The law says no. That company changed the address 3 times. The driver is going one address to another. That never happens. Because they're brokers. They're bonded. It's perfect. It's like a perfect phone call. But the car was nowhere. The company canceled it. Told me they'd call the car. Today I called. They said they're not going to pay for it. Sounded like they didn't even care. I've never heard of that. Driver lost more than 2 hours gas time till the destination. I told them to call the company, take care of the one, give them the bad rating, and told me I'll get a rating as well. So what should I do about it? If they give me a bad review back, what should I do? So the guy says, we emailed a couple times, said he's a new company, and you know what? Nobody cares about ratings anyway. So I said, just drop it, move on in life. Not much you can do. I mean, you can file on their bond and go through the motions and, get in a big stink war. And then they just change their name anyways, right? Tell me I'm wrong. Here's some actual news. Cashless tolling. Tolling begins in Ohio, PA border. Tolls increase over 40% if you're not an Easy Pass driver. So, you know what? If you're not local or from the eastern region, well, you just pay more. So be it. Sorry. Oh! I'm sorry. I didn't know that I found a picture of a dispatcher. Hey, good morning. My name is Martin. I'm an Logistic. I'm offering you dispatch services in an efficient and efficient problem solving. Now, I share this because this is a dispatch ad, and that's great, right? Because, Marta, I got an idea. I'll bet you didn't create this idea. You found out that there's carriers out there looking for dispatchers. You thought, you know what? Sounds like a problem that I can fill. I can do that. I charge 7%. That's reasonable. I find loads. I handle customer care. I handle billing and paperwork. Shoot, even do collections. I say that's reasonable. It sounds reasonable to me. Oh yeah, there's only one problem. Legal definitions. Speaking of, this is in request to somebody who wants to be a part-time driver. It's not a job you can do part-time. The expenses are high per month. Only work a few days. Plus, what if you get stranded, you break down? Think about the scenarios. And then this guy was saying, dude, I'd stop at this post. No money. There's no money to be made in hotshotting. The Missouri DOT will make you bankrupt. Sell it and buy a semi. The Missouri DOT. Oh my gosh. It's amazing. The Missouri DOT, wow, they get a lot of press. And it's not good. Last slide here. I'm going to be at Used Car Week next week. ACV Auctions is the mobile app sponsor for Used Car Week. Check it out. I think that's it. That is the end of industry news. I know it's a little all over the place, but there's a lot of information to cover. So here's what we got to do. We got to jump into that super highway. You're going to want to be right back. Welcome to the Halloween themed show. I'm Jay, your host on Auto Transport Intel. I hope you'll stick around. IATA stands for Independent Auto Transporters Alliance. Visit the website, iata.biz. The mission? Driving auto transport business together. Drivers, managers, owners, carriers, networking and sharing best practices. AATA provides access to suppliers with discounts. That's right, discounts. AATA, always working to make the car shipping industry better. AATA, something we can all be proud of. If you're a carrier and you're interested in joining AATA, visit the website, iata.biz. Click on Become a Member. Follow the register and checkout process. Got questions? Click Contact Us on the website. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Auto Transport Intel. I'm Jay, your host. Yes, I'm dressed up. It's Halloween-themed evening. You know, why not, right? Because dispatchers, brokers, costumes, trickery, definitions, confusion. Sure, let's go ahead. You know, so I saw the intersection, and I hope you do too. I hope you can appreciate it. So let's do this. Let's go into some information superhighway. There's no way I can get through all this before 8:30, but I'm sure going to give it a shot. Yes, you're watching Auto Transport Intel on YouTube. Thank you for also joining the live chat. We got Fox Car Hauling just joined us. Thanks for joining. And Lincoln Tacoma also here. Hey, what's up, Kandy from Seaport Service? She's going to be on the show. And we also I got Ben Gonzalez. He's in the Facebook live chat. We're live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So thank you for tuning in. Also, make sure you go to Facebook has a new page, Auto Trans Intel. LinkedIn has a new page, also Auto Transport Intel. You can also go to autotransportintel.com. That's the blog site. You can go to ctsbusinesscoaching.com, and that's where you can get business coaching and sign up. Okay, what is going on here? Legal definition of a broker. Okay, legal definition of a broker. There is a legal definition of a broker. And is there a legal definition of a dispatcher? Okay, we're going to actually go into that. I started to Google these things. You know, transportation dispatch definition. Now, does trucking have a definition of a dispatcher? That seems to be the question. Oh, by the way, dispatch, the act of killing. It seems that way. When you're a dispatcher, it feels like it does it. It's like torture. Dispatching is hard. So I don't know why it's so debatable, but it is, and we're going to get into that. But yeah, I did. I hear on dispatch on Wikipedia, it says trucking dispatch. So trucking dispatchers play a major role in transportation logistics. Okay, so does trucking and transportation share a definition as well? So I Googled FMCSA trucking dispatch. And you know what? There's no, I couldn't find dispatcher. I can find dispatch or being dispatched. You know, you can do this. You can do Control F, type in dispatch. Okay, so I can find you're waiting on a dispatch. Okay, and then it was dispatched, but there's no dispatcher. They don't have it. Okay, they have broker, they have carrier. Okay, by the way, we are now into Title 49 of Transportation. This is the U.S. Code, and then there's the Code of Federal Regulations, the CFR. We got the CFR pumpkin up here. How good is that? Scary. Okay, CFR. All right, Title 49, Code of Federal Regulations, Part 371.2. Broker is a person who, for compensation, arranges or offers to arrange the transportation of property by an authorized motor carrier. There is no definition of a dispatcher. In fact, we're going to go into case law here in a bit, where basically, since there's no dispatcher definition, they revert to the broker definition. A person who, for compensation, arranges or offers to arrange the transportation of property by an authorized motor carrier. Here's the thing. You and I both know brokers and dispatchers do different things as far as it's understood in the secondary market in car hauling. For owner-operators, individual owner-operators and car hauling dispatchers all those folks know the difference between a dispatcher and a broker. But guess what? You move into like an OEM fleet, they literally don't know what I just said. They think a dispatcher is someone who works in the office and handles logistics of vehicles, talking to brokers, talking to shippers, customers. They don't know about the individual owner-operator dispatcher. I know, and that's why that begins, I think, the division. And the division just continues to grow because you go through these definitions. You're not going to find dispatcher. 49 CFR. This is part 386. Here, you can go into Title 49 of Transportation of the Code of Federal Regulations. Go ahead. Look for dispatcher. Let's do it. Control F. Let's do dispatcher. Nothing. Dispatcher. 0. There is no dispatcher. CFR. Part. So Title 49 Transportation. Oh, you know what? It's hard to read, isn't it? Part 371. It's not in there, man. Jay, I can't read it. 22 CFR, Part 129. It's not in there. Went through all the parts. You go to the DOT, FMCSA. Hey, did you see my FMCSA? Oh, there's the FMCSA pumpkin. 49 CFR 371. Read through the document. It's talking about brokers, motor carriers, yes, bona fide agents, types of property. And we're going to get into the kicker. The kicker, you know what the kicker is? The kicker is that if you're a dispatcher, according to these statutes, you can only work for one company. And if you work for 2 or more companies, you're a broker. That's what the legal statutes say. Now, in the industry, we know that's not how it works. By the way, do you know the statutes also reference the ICC? There is no ICC. Are these outdated laws? Okay. It's interesting. Consignor. What's a consignor, right? Brokers deal with consignors. Dispatchers don't deal with consignors. Brokers handle money. Most dispatchers don't handle the money. They get paid by the carrier. They're acting on behalf of the carrier. They're acting as a bona fide agent. They have an agreement with the carrier. Heck, some even do the power of attorney, limited power of attorney. The law doesn't seem to care. It's really strange. And that brings us to, there's this case, man. We're going to go into this case tonight. F&M Marketing Services versus Christian Berry Trucking. Some crazy stuff right there. Then this guy, AskTheTrucker.com, dispatch services, legit, misguided, or fraudulent. Gee, I wonder how he feels about dispatching. But it is interesting. After review of these laws, then you review like FreightMoverschool.com, their trucking dispatcher training. Check this out. Here's a crossroads right here. Do I want to book loads for one trucking company or multiple? If the answer is one, continue learning. If the answer is multiple, you're a broker. That's what it says. And then I show, so remember there was a movie, A Day Without a Mexican? Well, I think we need to make a movie, A Day Without a Dispatcher, where the carrier is driving down the road trying to text. I'm not saying I'm going to make the movie, but what I'm saying is this is all really strange, isn't it? Like, what happened? How did this happen? Has this been in the works a long time? I mean, what is going on? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to find out. We are going to, oh yeah, by the way, that's right. I got to do the CTS Business Coaching question of the day. So let's go ahead. And what is the CTS Business Coaching question of the day? All right. Oh, here we got to do this. Listen, if you are dispatching 2 or more trucks, are you a broker in the eyes of the law? If you are, default. If you are dispatching 2 or more trucks, are you a broker in the eyes of the law? Either answer that or let me know what you're dressing up as for Halloween. Okay. All right, that is the CTS Business Coaching question of the day, guys. So here's what's going to happen. Right after this, we're going to be back. We're going to go into the discussion panel. What is a dispatcher discussion panel? We got many people joining. Some people in costume, some not. Some are legal, some not. I don't know. Anyways, you're going to want to stick around. It's already 8:30. By the way, let me know how the World Series is going.
Historically, buying and selling wholesale vehicles is time-consuming, expensive, and loaded with risk. With ACV, our 20-minute online auctions provide immediate access to thousands of dealers who are ready to buy. Our inspectors complete comprehensive condition reports right at your dealership, from engine fluid levels and OBD2 scans to paint meter readings and tire tread depths with tons of high-res photos. Our condition reports take the guesswork out of wholesale. The ACV team comes to your dealership, inspects the vehicles you'd like to sell, and loads them into the app, and you're selling vehicles in no time. There are no fees for running a vehicle that doesn't sell, and you don't have to worry about transportation to a physical auction. See how ACV can work with your dealership at acvauctions.com.
Okay, welcome back to Auto Transport Intel. Now, do me a favor, if you're joining the show, and you're watching the show, you have to either mute the audio on YouTube or stop watching the show, and then we're gonna have our folks trickling in here. I know I started the Zoom meeting a while back, like a couple days ago, and then I've had you guys in the waiting room. That's a joke. I know. So, anyways, listen, guys. This is the Dispatcher. What is a Dispatcher show? It's a little strange. It seems, honestly, it's strange to me that we're asking this question, because there are, I don't know how many people dressing up as a comedian because brokers laugh when I request a higher rate. Hey, that's good. You definitely every dispatcher should dress up as a comedian, because it feels that way, doesn't it? And that thing too, guys. When did carriers begin looking for dispatchers to help keep them loaded? Because it didn't just start yesterday. And if that's the case, why does it seem like so many people are down on dispatchers? I just don't understand it. And listen, and I know I've been on both sides of the fence, because you know what? Dispatching is a hard job. So I defend it because it is a hard job. I'm not saying it's the perfect business model, but I do know that as a previous dispatcher, it's a thankless job. It is kind of like being a janitor. You know, you got to clean up messes that you don't understand how they happened. By the way, I'm inviting everyone to the meeting while I talk to you. You got to clean up messes. You don't know how they happened. You try to fix problems. Am I right? Dude. Hey, what's up, Muzi? Can you see me and hear me okay? Okay, I can see you. I can't hear you yet. And let's see. Let's go back into this live chat. I know I missed some live chats. Lincoln Tacoma says, how can I haul loads if most everyone is not denying me vehicles to pick up to move? Plus, how can I get rail yard lanes to deliver to auctions? Interesting. Devis says, I've called some of those text message ads, and half of those people have no clue as to what they're doing. See, now, okay. Now, that's interesting and not surprising. That's actually why I created the dispatching training series, is I was concerned about folks wanting to dispatch, trying to dispatch, and not being very good at it. Just like I'm concerned about new carriers wanting to be carriers, trying to be carriers, and not being very good at it. Neither job is easy. Brokering's not easy. Listen, that's another part of this angle. A lot of people think brokering is easy. Oh, no way. Have you ever brokered a car? Holy smokes. Ricky says, shout out from Tampa. What's up, Ricky? Thanks for tuning in, man. Lincoln, I'm dressing up as a trucker that believes in safety first. See? Now, that's a good dispatcher joke. I'll tell you what. I was going to save this, but since we got people trickling in, let's do this. We're going to play a game with the live chat. Okay. So, live chat, help me out. Let's see, view this as a list. Okay. Live chat, help me out. Is this a picture of is this a carrier, a dispatcher, a broker, or a shipper? Okay, and I made these little signs here. I know, this is like, it's like if you had like Halloween games, No Nintendo, how can I... No entiendo. That'd be a good name for a dispatch service. No entiendo dispatch service. Let's see here. Okay. By the way, is this a carrier, a broker, a dispatcher, or a shipper? How about dispatchers dealing with carriers that don't know what they're doing? Yeah. Oh, it is awesome. I've been there, done that. What do we got? Shipper or broker? Okay, we've got one for broker, one for shipper. Oh, broker takes it. That is a broker. We got a winner. That's the broker. All right, cool. All right, let's see here. Let's go to the next one. All right, live chat. Since this is a Halloween show, is this a dispatcher, a carrier, a broker, or a shipper? All right, let me set my ELD. Okay, I'm gonna put 1 minute. I don't have 1 minute, dude. I'm gonna put 10 seconds on my ELD because that's about how much time you have to get to the house. Let's see. Yikes, I'm a broker. I don't. Oh, my ELD's already up. Is this a broker, a shipper, a carrier, or a dispatcher? Oh, we got a driver. Okay, driver. That's a carrier. Yay, carrier. Okay. Hey, this is fun. I knew this would be a dazzler. Okay, is this a broker, a carrier, a dispatcher, or a shipper? Okay, put some time on my ELD. Let's do seconds, yeah, because you don't get much time. Let's pretend we're looking for a parking spot at Walmart. We're looking for a parking spot at Walmart. Let me know. Carrier, broker, shipper, or dispatcher. Oh, time's up. There is no parking at Walmart. Oh, hey, you are right, Ty. That is the shipper. That's who the dispatcher gets to talk to and work around their hair appointment for the delivery of a brand new 2019 Volvo. Okay, you are a winner. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, is this a broker, carrier, dispatcher, or shipper? Let's see here. Okay, go ahead and mute. Broker, carrier, dispatcher, shipper. Oh, that's a dealer. Oh, man, I don't have a dealer on here. I didn't think of that. Well, it's not that kind of show. This is a family show, man. We don't have the dealer costumes. That is that's your after hours. Okay, let's see here. We got 2 more seconds. Broker, carrier, dispatcher, or shipper. And, I got to tally the votes. We need a tiebreaker, folks. We got shipper, broker, carrier. We haven't had a dispatcher yet. Who is this pirate? Oh, we got a winner. Oh, it's a carrier, the carrier. Oh, no, whoa. We got a... Whoa, the broker that spoke too soon. That is definitely a broker. The pirate that took your money and kept it. And then you got to file on their bond. Okay. Hey, by the way, Kandy, Sue, can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me and see me? Sue, I think you're with me, Sue. Kandy, are you with me? Let's see here. Oh, whoops. No, wait, there we go. Now you should be with me. Okay, good. All right, I got Sue. Kandy, are you with me? Can you see me and hear me okay? Who wants to do another costume? This is fun, right? This is fantastic. Okay, is this
Yes.
Is this a carrier, a dispatcher, a broker, or a shipper? Oh, man. Dispatcher, broker, carrier, or shipper. Okay, those votes are coming in. Let me set my timer here. I got 10 seconds on the ELD. And go. Is this a broker? Arrgh. Is this a broker, carrier, dispatcher, or shipper? Oh, man. We got votes coming in with. Okay, we got one vote for broker. Is broker gonna take it again? The broker has your money. Broker slideshow tonight. Oh man. Oh, the FMCSA. Oh, that's the broker. It's either the broker or the FMCSA. Oh, it's the DOT. Woo! This is fun. Oh, it's a carrier? Okay, let's do another one. Okay, I got a couple more here. I know. Okay. It's Halloween, folks. Is this a carrier, a broker, a dispatcher? Oh, it's a dispatcher. You know, it's not a werewolf. It's a lichen, by the way. You know, you got to check with Harry Potter on these things. Got 10 seconds on the ELD. Get those votes in, folks. You got 5 seconds to get your votes in. Pretend you're trying to verify a load. Oh, you missed that load. Well, I'm pretty sure that we know that the werewolf is... It's a dispatcher. Okay, now we know for sure. Okay, I think we got one more. Okay, is this a carrier, a broker, a dispatcher, or a shipper? All right, let's get 10 seconds on the ELD. Okay, the office is about to close. You got to get your certificate of insurance. You've got 7 seconds before they go to lunch. Is this a dispatcher, carrier, broker, or shipper? Oh! Well, too late. You didn't get your certificate of insurance. The load cancels. You're going to have to stay the night in Houston again. Oh, it's an insurance agent. Oh, it's a dog. It's a doggy insurance agent. Really? That's what we got. That we have one vote, which isn't even. Oh, Carlos got it. Thank you. It's the shipper. That's right. You're going to have to work around the hair appointment again because we had to cancel because we weren't home from the airport. What do you mean you can't meet us at the airport? It's easy peasy, 1, 2, 3 easy. But the broker said, oh, we got one more. Is this a carrier, broker, dispatcher, or shipper? Is this really, Jay, is this the show tonight? Just doing Halloween costumes. I think we're doing one more. It's too much fun. Dispatcher, broker, carrier, or shipper. I'm putting 10 seconds on the ELD. Listen, you got a dock receipt. The car is not a run and drive. There's no printer in the truck. Do you think we can... Oh, you can't cancel it. You're too late. You have to pick it up, or you're going to get a negative rating. Is this a dispatch? Oh. Yeah, looks like we got us a dispatcher. Okay, we got us a dispatcher for sure. Okay, that's pretty fun stuff. Now listen, here's what we're gonna do. Oh, it's a Florida broker. That is a good one. Here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to go ahead and what we had is no coverage. 5 minutes. Okay, Ziggy's got difficult coverage. He's going to try and join us in 5 minutes. He is live at the AATA show. We got Sue, we got Kandy. I don't see Ty in here yet. I also, Muzi, we had you, but we lost you. But you know, those things happen. Cali dispatchers. Let's do this. So, you know what I'm going to do? Check this out, guys. No problem. No problem. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share the screen again. And we're going to take that away. Let's go ahead and... yeah, that was fun, man. I really enjoyed that. Okay, so I want to show you guys this. Now, this was in the... here, I'm going to mute you. I'm just going to mute you for a second, Sue. These were in the... in Auto Transport Everything on Facebook. I saw a lot of comments. Did you guys see this? I read this. Did you read this? This is it's a little bit negative. Telling you where a dispatcher's in the office telling you where you're going to take. Really? That's what a dispatcher is? Okay. That's what somebody said a dispatcher is. Kandy says, okay, I think the legal capacity of an independent dispatcher to a driver is a contracted administrative agent. The brokerage and bond part is for the money side of it. A broker payment is in the broker name when they collect. Dispatcher doesn't collect on their own name. See, that's the thing is, that's a difference between a broker and a dispatcher, is that a broker handles the money. A dispatcher does not handle the money. Okay? So, like, there are some dispatchers that do. And that might be a dispatcher that you want to watch out for. But predominantly in the industry, dispatchers get paid by the carrier. They have an agreement with the carrier. Some of them have power of attorney with the carrier, limited power of attorney. They're a bona fide agent working on behalf of the carrier. The law becomes a problem with this. If you're working for 2 or more carriers, the law says you're a broker. Why does it say that? I don't know. Because we know that a broker works with a shipper to post loads and talk to carriers to make sure that a carrier moves the load. It's not what a dispatcher does. It's not. I'm a broker to take care of my customers that I can't put on my own trucks. I'm a dispatcher to load my trucks. Right, there you go. There's a difference. Broker working with customers. Oh, here we got. Let's see here. Hey, can you hear me, Ziggy?
I can hear you, Jay.
Hey, what's going on, man? Listen, welcome to Auto Transport Intel. By the way, Sue, can you hear me okay as well? Because we hear... Sue, we hear noise, but we don't hear...
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. All right. I didn't know if it was a microphone or a fan or what it was. But hey, Ziggy, listen, welcome to the show, man.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you, Sue. Ziggy, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, man, thanks for joining the show. Listen, I won't keep you very long. I know you're at AATA. I appreciate you tuning in. What's the deal with this dispatcher versus broker conflagration as far as you see it? I mean, you know, we talked about this. You once asked me, you know, or what did you say to me? What's the difference between a dispatcher and a broker? Isn't a dispatcher a broker? What did you say to me?
I asked you if it was not the same thing. When you're charging a fee, I'm not talking an employee of the company being a dispatcher. I'm talking the people that are promoting, finding your work for you, dispatching you, doing everything historically a broker would do is now being done under the mask of dispatcher to avoid the broker bonds, the broker licensing, which is allowing people that are unqualified to even protect yourself by their bond or anything else. It's leaving everybody out there, once again, avoiding the true cost of doing business.
So is it your opinion, and maybe that of others, that dispatchers are some kind of con artists just trying to take a piece of the pie and not trying to provide a service?
A lot of our industry doesn't like brokers in general, which I do work with certain brokers, so I'm not anti-broker by any means, but it's being said that these dispatchers that are coming out now are simply doing it under false pretenses, so they don't have to qualify, so they can work from out of the country because they have no way to obtain a broker's license in the U.S., being from countries all over, and that's what's going on. We're all getting texts and all kinds of advertisement from people claiming to be dispatchers, when in reality they are doing every function of a broker and should be licensed as such.
So, okay, no, Sue, I didn't mute. Sue, I'm hearing something in the background. That's why I muted, because there's just some background noise. There's like a zombie moving around the background. See, so I hear that, Ziggy, and I don't.
I have nothing on.
I don't. Yeah, I know.
I think.
I'm not sure what it is. It's just the air. But Sue, when you hear Ziggy say that, see that I'm not familiar with that. I thought dispatchers were people that carriers were voluntarily looking for to make phone calls on their behalf and help keep them loaded while they drive. That's what I thought a dispatcher was.
What? Is that not also what a broker is?
No, not. See, that's the thing. A broker is somebody working with a shipper.
No.
No?
Not anymore.
One part.
Sue, man, maybe I'm glad I'm wearing a costume tonight, because I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. I thought there were 2 separate jobs. Are there 2 separate jobs, or is it 1 job? Sue, Kandy, anybody?
I cannot hear you.
I think it's more than 2.
Yeah, you can't. So
I think it's more than 2 jobs.
Can I hear you?
You can't hear me. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. Kandy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Okay,
Yeah.
Kandy. I know it's at least 2 jobs because again, the broker and I didn't create this understanding, and my understanding is a lot of other people have the same understanding I do, and yet me and Ziggy are speaking different languages here. And again, I don't care. I'm not a dispatcher. Actually, I don't work in car hauling anymore. I host Auto Transport Intel. I have a channel. I'm a journalist in car shipping. That's what I do. So I have no dog in this fight. But a broker represents a shipper to help them get their cars moved. A dispatcher works with a carrier to help them stay loaded. It's 2 totally different jobs. Kandy?
I understand your opinion.
So
Being
Yeah,
that they're the exact same job.
that's an opinion?
It's just one part of it. I mean, it could, because like you said, there's not a big legal obligation for dispatchers. There's nothing that specifically signifies as 4, 5, 10 different type of dispatchers. You just said a lot of it can fall under brokerage, and a lot of it is just an open platform, and that's where people are taking advantage of it. A lot of people are dispatching under false pretenses. You know, a lot of them that are brokering under false pretenses as being a dispatcher. Because there's not a lot of legal obligation, because the carrier actually houses the legal obligation. You know, the carrier has the insurance. If something goes wrong, it falls back on the carrier. If there is negligence, then there's going to be, filed against the insurance or the broker. So the dispatcher is kind of like a mediator,
So, but check this out. See, this is where it gets weird. So, okay, Ziggy, you know that a person that works in an office and does phone calls for one motor carrier, that is a dispatcher, right?
Agreed.
Okay.
100% agreed.
Okay, and that dispatcher doesn't do the same job that a broker does, right?
Not on that basis. And again, I'm not talking about the people sitting. I have 2 dispatchers in my office. They are nothing of the current dispatch model that we're talking about. The dispatch model that we're talking about are people that work for nobody specifically. They work for 15 companies providing the freight, providing the even payment, collecting payment, doing everything historically a broker has always done, but just under this little hidden fact that they have no qualifications.
Okay, but do dispatchers that work in offices also have that same work operation? No.
No.
That's what I don't get. I don't understand why we're talking about brokering and dispatching is the same job. Now, a broker can fill a carrier without the need of any dispatcher or wife or brother-in-law or kids or any of those people. I get that. That's one of the reasons why. And brokers also take the money on behalf of the shipper. It's a whole nother level of duty. But a dispatcher, a guy, a cousin, a friend, sitting in a room with a phone, helping a carrier stay loaded, representing that carrier, not taking the money, not taking consignment, not doing anything other than making phone calls as an agent for that carrier, that is a different job than working with a shipper. It's a different job.
And again, the ones we're talking about are all the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. You can go, Ziggy.
Well, what I'm saying is everybody is calling themselves a dispatcher now. I'm not talking about historically what you just described. I'm talking about people that are doing everything that you just described as a broker. They're now calling themselves dispatchers to avoid the licensing and the bonding. They're doing every single thing that a broker does, but calling themselves a dispatcher now when they're doing all of the historical same exact operative things as a broker.
I see what you're saying. So what we're talking about is brokers disguised as dispatchers, not dispatchers disguised as brokers.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Aha! Now I did not realize that.
There are a lot of them too. Can you imagine working as a broker and your freight being exposed to other dispatchers who are acting as a broker? Like, you've worked hard to build customer relationships and rapport. When you're thinking you're just dealing with another carrier, you're thinking you're dealing just with a carrier, to find out that you're dealing with an independent dispatcher who's part-time and as a broker too.
But and I want to say this too, is that I will say part of the reason why I'm still confused about some of the dispatcher broker war is that there are people that just deny that dispatchers should exist in any fashion. Like that they're illegal, they're bad, they're scammers. And dispatching is a job. I mean, it is a job, right?
Maybe independent dispatchers, and it's not really a word we have for that. Yeah.
Not our dispatchers that we all choose to employ. I employ dispatchers that are full-time employees that come to my office. I dictate what their job is as the owner. We're talking people that are their own independent business, calling themselves a dispatcher, that are doing all the historical responsibilities of a broker. That's what I've been referring to during this whole little
discussion
issue.
Now let me,
whatever you want to call it.
And by the way, you know what? Oh, go ahead, Kandy.
No, I was going to say dispatchers can go get a surety bond, just like a broker can. It may not be a brokered surety bond, but you can have a surety bond, because that bond is just to protect, assets that you're responsible for. If you're an agent for different companies, personally, I think it's just about the relationships you build and just being transparent. It's very, very few that I have ran into actual independent dispatchers who don't expose. They don't tell everything. They may have their own client base. Your client may be their client now because they didn't expose to you that they were operating under a broker capacity.
Well, and here's the thing. Listen, this may just be the automotive industry in general, because I think we could go through every single costume that we went through and name somebody, whatever job it is, run the gamut that is, definitely not on the up and up. I don't think that dispatchers have cornered the market on creating a problem in the automotive industry.
And again, not historical dispatchers like you were thinking a moment ago. The new breed of dispatcher that literally lost their bond yesterday as a broker. They're doing the same exact job today, calling themselves a dispatcher, and they can't be sued because they no longer are a broker or in any manner monitored or regulated by anybody.
Well, by the way, there's a lot of speculation of how people become dispatchers, that they're failed truck drivers or they just couldn't get it. I mean, come on. Listen, we could say that about anybody. I mean, you're a broker because you're a failed driver. You're a driver because you're a failed broker. I mean, the name calling that goes on, I just don't get it. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I want to separate what's a legal issue and what's just people just being down on each other. I mean, please. This is a hard industry, and that's why it takes so many people, because there's too many others. I don't know if they're just getting the wrong info, they're not taking the time. That's one of the reasons why dispatcher jobs actually exist, is because there's so much wrong information. It needs to be found, accurate, loads need to be negotiated, etc. Am I wrong?
I agree with you, but as an independent business, trying to hold people apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Kandy, I don't know who you are or what you are. May I ask just for a brief moment?
Awesome.
No. I would just say
are you a broker, dispatcher?
No, I've been both of them, but I'm not either.
Okay, because you and I apparently have the same opinion of it. It's those that are masking and hiding any responsibility. These dispatchers that are claiming to be dispatchers that have relationships with shippers.
These dispatchers, though, Ziggy, are there a lot of these entities that are brokers claiming to be dispatchers?
Absolutely.
There are?
Yeah.
It's a new thing. They can't qualify for a $75,000 bond. It used to be $10,000 because they can't qualify or they can't afford it. Now they just simply eliminate the broker comment, call themselves a dispatcher, they do the exact same job, and boom, that's what we're talking about.
I had the pleasure. I work with some really good dispatchers that dispatch like their own trucks or a conglomerate, like a group of trucks, and they don't,
Right.
they don't broker freight. They really are dispatchers. They're for independents, because car hauling has a lot of independent business owners, and they are some really good dispatchers who have no reason to be brokers because their plate is full as a dispatcher.
Exactly.
But they get grouped into this too because there's nothing really that separates, And the only reason I think it's important to separate dispatching, like an independent dispatcher, from having a brokered bond, or let's say a dispatcher having to have a bond, is because it's so easy to get caught up into financial liability, getting customers. And I was talking to somebody, but to be able to get customers under the carrier's name, to be able to solicit and get clients under a carrier's name. And half the time the carrier doesn't even know that they have an independent dispatcher who's capable of doing that or that is doing that. But they still have they have no dog in the fight financially. If they were to, let's say, give freight to another carrier, you dispatch for ABC Trucking, and you get some loads from a regular client, and you put it onto 123's truck. He has an accident. They are thinking it's on ABC's truck. You're the only one that really knows what's going on. So ABC is on the hook, financially responsible, and has no clue what you're doing with his numbers. Now, that's really, really true for a lot of independent dispatchers that are hopping in over the last 4 or 5 years.
So that's the thing. What I want to say is, if you're a broker pretending to be a dispatcher, every time you broker a load without having a bond, I mean, you are breaking the law. That's clear. But if you take the reverse, where you have an actual dispatcher that people think is a broker, you're working for carriers. You're not intentionally breaking the law. But here's the thing: is we go into the. I know it's it's really weird to have this conversation because honestly, I was a dispatcher for years. I didn't know any of this was a problem. I worked for carriers. I worked hard. I helped them make money, and I mean, they really appreciated the job I did. We had a relationship. We had an agreement. I worked only for them. Every load I called, I did on behalf of them. The thing is too, you can't, if you're a dispatcher for hire and you're trying to follow the law and only work for one company, you will not make it. You cannot make enough money working for one company. You are going out of business.
I don't agree at all.
As an independent dispatcher.
An independent dispatcher could do it easily and make enough money.
No.
I mean, when you're talking small companies that are doing millions of dollars of annual revenue, and you want to work as an independent dispatcher for 5, 7, 10%, whatever the number is,
for one company,
there's a lot of money to be made. A lot of money to be made.
Man, you'd have to be working with a fleet with a major contract, and if you're at that level, the fleet's either going to hire somebody in-house and let you go, or they're going to hire you. But you're not going to be an independent contractor. That's not going to last.
That's true.
I mean, it's right.
I dispatch.
Absolutely. Can you hear me, Jay?
Yeah, I hear you. Thanks for
It's
joining.
Muzi.
Yeah, thanks, Muzi.
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
Maybe I think we should, first of all, define what a dispatcher is according to what car hauling entails. We define a dispatcher according to what they do for car haulers, for carriers. Because according to myself, a dispatcher, especially in car hauling, is someone who facilitates the logistics of a company representing that carrier. And a dispatcher is really not any different from a driver if they are representing a carrier, because they are both employed by the carrier. A driver is the one that facilitates what the dispatcher has dispatched to the driver, and the dispatcher is the one that actually incepts the whole load, that actually does the investigation, the searching on the load board, and the calling of brokers, and all that stuff there is done representing the carrier that the dispatcher was hired by. So I really don't see how dispatchers are illegal. If they are actually working for the carriers, then it follows that the drivers are illegal too, because the drivers also work for the carriers. See what I mean?
Well, you said carrier, like singular, not plural. So one carrier, that's one thing, but multiple carriers, and I dispatched also from multiple carriers. That's the difference. That's, to me, that's where it's really, really open. But it's like a lot of other parts of the government. Everything isn't regulated. You know, sometimes situations like this, these conversations cause more regulations and more eye-opening experiences, because brokers weren't bonded until, you know, $1 million load of lettuce went bad and nobody wanted to take responsibility, you know, for it. You know, situations that caused that to come into play. So it may just be a different time, you know, in our car hauling careers, that dispatching may need to become more regulated, because there are multiple types of dispatching.
There's a gentleman that's in one of the Facebook groups, and I'm not going to name names. I just don't want to get into that headache right at this minute. But he says he has 40 loads round trip every week, pays X amount to X amount, and he wants to be your dispatcher. The guy has the freight. He has the relationship with the shipper.
Broker.
But yet he wants to grab you for 7 to 10% by calling himself a dispatcher and not a broker, so he has no legal representation that he's doing the job properly. That's just wrong.
I agree with you. That's a broker. Yeah, and that's not...
And that's what I've been referring to from point go.
And that's what's weird, is that from like, what, 5 or 6 years ago, this is new information to me, because for 5 or 6 years I've known a dispatcher to be, as Muzi was talking about, a guy or woman that works for a carrier and facilitates loads to the driver so that the carrier can make money. The only reason they talk to the shipper is to either make contact, the driver's going to be there at such and such time. That's it. They never talk to the shipper until they're just verifying information and on behalf of the carrier. That's it. That's a dispatcher.
Yep.
I think it's those dispatchers.
But there's no definition for a dispatcher, by the way.
We can, you know, I guess it's the fake dispatchers that pose as, you know, dispatchers when they're really brokers, like you're saying, Jay, because according to our definition of a dispatcher in car hauling, you know, it's someone who represents a carrier and facilitates the loads for the carrier. So what this gentleman is saying here, that other dispatchers are now peddling as brokers and stuff like that, and they have loads. When you are a dispatcher, you really don't have loads that you have.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have loads.
You don't have loads.
You're just a person that facilitates those loads that you are given permission to even get on that load board by the carrier. You are the one that looks for them for them. Otherwise, most dispatchers that I know don't even have their own login and passwords for central dispatch. Am I lying or not, Jay?
So that's exactly. The dispatcher may work for multiple carriers, but when they call on behalf of a carrier, it's one carrier they're calling on behalf of.
Exactly.
Now, we've heard stories of people that are like, yeah, well, I don't know, I got all kind of... Yeah, okay, that's a problem. And by the way, I want to mention this too, because Dave is asking the question, what if a dispatcher has 2 trucks in the same area? Okay, how often does that happen? Rarely. This is a gigantic country. But when it does happen, it's not a problem, because they're 2 different carriers working on 2 different routes at 2 different times. I mean, Muzi, how often have you looked at one car and 2 companies could pick up the exact same car at the exact same time on the exact same day? Please. That almost never happens. This conflict of interest argument, it's silly. It clearly, only a non-dispatcher thinks that that's a real argument.
Yeah, that's
silly.
Seldomly happens.
Never happens. I can't think of a time. I know I've had drivers run on similar lanes and cross paths, but I've never had like a conflict of interest, like, oh, who am I gonna book this load for? I can't think of once.
No, because you know your drivers as a dispatcher. You know your drivers. Man, dispatchers know their drivers better than the driver knows himself.
And that's very true, actually.
And then we get legal. Right, now, that's the thing is, The FMCSA rules, yeah, those are on your side, Dave. That's what's so strange here is that we've been running, I don't know how many decades have carriers been asking for dispatchers to keep them loaded? Does anybody know?
But if you guys were, again, we know that a dispatcher is not defined by FMCSA, but a broker is. So if you go and you look at the definition of a broker, and you look at these people calling themselves dispatchers, 8 out of 10 of the broker requirements are being done by these people hiding as a dispatcher.
That's what I'm asking. So how long have we had this shadow industry? Does anybody know?
I'm not even familiar about it.
Go ahead. I know at least 10 years.
That's how long?
I'm going to say more than that. Yeah, I'm going to say.
So over it. But here's another question: How does so many new carriers know to ask for dispatchers? Where did they learn?
Because they don't know anything else.
Yeah, but where'd they get the secret knock?
Facebook.
Is that where it started?
Well, some kind of social media. Everything instantaneous now with social media.
Does anybody
and
else...
usually the instantaneous satisfaction is bullshit.
Okay, but does anybody else see how strange this is? That we have an industry where one leg of the stool of the owner-operator industry is based on a shadow industry.
Look at all the unlicensed people with a wedge.
That is nuts, man. Nobody wants to ask that question?
It's the same thing as the wedge drivers that are 35,000 pounds but hiding at the under 26 because they don't have no Class A, because they can't properly insure, and the dually is registered to their sister or cousin. It's all the same.
Okay,
but
so...
AJ, let's remember, too, that
it's
a
so
broker...
Weird. I really do. This is the strangest thing. Isn't it strange that we're having this conversation? Are we at the point where we're at the Day Without a Mexican? Is that where this part of the movie where we get rid of all the people in the shadows? Is that what we do now? And then the drivers just have to go back to texting and driving and fighting the ELD and everything else because dispatchers are illegal? Is that where we're at?
Again, no. We're talking the dispatchers that are truly brokers that are trying to hide as a dispatcher. We're not talking about a legitimate industry that provides a legitimate service. We're talking about those that are sidestepping it just for their own benefit, and not the people that are actually employing them.
Well, but guys like Dave are saying that they're all illegal, that you got to get rid of all dispatchers. They're all illegal. Throw them all out. Is that where we're at?
I don't think... I don't know who Dave is at saying this, but I have 2 girls that work for me in my office. They are my employees from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. daily. They don't dispatch for any other companies. Their job is to take the work that our sales department provides, line it up with the trucks, set up the trucks to be where they're supposed to be, and the loads.
And that's
and that's what my dispatchers do.
Right, and which are bona fide agents because they work for you for one trucking company, and therefore that's a legal situation and they're an employee of yours, right?
Correct. And now you have people calling themselves dispatchers that are getting bids, buying leads, saying this car pays $1,000. Do you want to do it or not? When it's actually paying them $1,800, $2,000. They're looking for low bidding people, calling themselves a dispatcher to put that work out. They're doing the exact same work as a broker, but calling themselves a dispatcher. Those are the ones I'm talking about, not the legitimate people.
Are we not confusing the real brokers here? Because when a broker actually sends you a load, they define that as dispatching that load to you. Okay? So when a broker sends you a load and they are dispatching a load to you, what is that definition? Are they now called dispatchers and brokers? Because when you send a load to a carrier to be able to pick it up for you and facilitate that movement of that load, you in essence have dispatched the load to the carrier, and probably that definition there is what's confusing everybody. Because what should we say? Brokers send the load to the carrier, or brokers dispatch the load to the carrier? Because when you dispatch...
The dispatcher can send you a bill of lading. They can't... Okay. These brokers have no right to dispatch my truck. I work for Ready Auto Transport. I do a lot of business with them, and I'm happy with it. And we're not going to get into the semantics of who loves them or hates. It doesn't matter. But they send me work. They don't dispatch my trucks. They don't tell my trucks where to go, when to be there, who to talk to. That's not their job. Their job is to send me the work they want me to move. My dispatchers employed by me within my office do all the organization and control the movements of my employees, not the broker.
Well, and actually, and that's part of the definition too. A broker is not allowed to give you all of those semantics of when, how, where, what, and why, and all. I mean, they can give you a dispatch, but they can't dictate what your truck does along the way at every moment.
What is the logistic definition of someone that sends a load?
Hey,
load.
Hey, by the way, I want to pause you for a second because check this out, guys. Hank Seaton, attorney at law, he just joined us. Hank, can you see us and hear us okay? He'll be with us any second. It's pretty normal. I can see him, and he might be able to hear me. He's got
Hank's inside the motel where I am.
Exactly. You guys are both in South Carolina at the Auto Haulers Association of America conference.
Correct.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to join me live, in my Halloween-themed, dispatcher spooky arena. Hey, man, I'm dressed as a dispatcher.
Look like a Halloween dispatcher, Jay.
What's going on, Hank? Can you see?
I don't know it, buddy. I had a hard time dialing in, but I'm here.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. I think we got a really, really good show going here where we're diving right into dispatcher versus broker, the definitions, and this is neat, Ziggy, is that, Hank, you sent me some information earlier. I'm going to pull it up on the screen, and we're going to dive in. I don't want to take too much time, but I just want to say this is that, Hank, please tell us more about, what is it, F&M Marketing Services versus Christian Berry?
Yeah, that was one case we mentioned last month. It was a case in which a company was asking or was suing Christian Berry pursuant to an agent agreement. Christian Berry argued that they couldn't enforce it because they were an agent for multiple carriers. Ultimately, F&M won the case, but the court came down very clearly on the fact that F&M needed a broker's license. And the analysis in the case went somewhat consistent with what we talked about last month, that being that the definition of a broker is one who arranges for transportation for compensation and is not a bona fide agent of the carrier. A bona fide agent is defined as someone who basically is an exclusive agent and does not have the right to select among multiple clients who gets the freight. There's nothing in the definition that says, and oh, by the way, this arranger of transportation must handle the money. And therein is the disconnect, because we've always thought that, if he's a commission agent and isn't handling the funds, then he's not a broker. But that's not the way the definition plays itself out. You can say, well, if he's not handling the money, he's going to care. But in a number of cases, the courts have cared. There is an old case in California, and you can expect that whatever happens in California may be rather unique. But in that case, there was a dispute between an agent and a carrier. The court found that the alleged agent was supposed to have a broker's license that didn't, and said that under California law, if you were supposed to be licensed and weren't, no contract you had was enforceable. So in that case, a rather substantial third party was left without a recourse.
What I found interesting is that F&M was the dispatcher, right? And they didn't get paid by Christian Berry, so then they sued. They're the ones that brought the lawsuit. Is that right?
Yeah. And the case in the Tennessee case, we prevailed. I'd like to think it was because we had such great lawyers. Ultimately, the court said that Christian Berry pay up, but in doing so, said F&M should have had a license and didn't, but the equities were in favor of Christian Berry. So you've got two cases in two different jurisdictions that both find that in fact the dispatch service should have a broker's license. In one case, the court said, if you don't have a broker's license, we don't care what the contract says, you're not getting paid. In the other case, in the Tennessee case, F&M did get paid. So
F&M did get paid in that case. Okay.
Yeah, F&M did get paid. We basically were able to convince the court that Christian Berry took advantage of F&M by signing the contract. F&M had a long-term relationship. There wasn't any argument made that F&M wasn't exclusive or that they had done anything wrong, other than they just misinterpreted the broker regulation. So, I mean, you've got different cases making the same conclusion that the multiple agent model should have a broker's license.
And therein lies, that's the rub, isn't it? If you're right, if you work for two or more companies, you need a broker's license.
Yes, with possibly one exception. The way the cases go down, let's say that I'm based in Nashville and I divide up the territory and I say, look, I'm only going to recruit for Henson and Atkins going to California, and I'm only going to sell freight going from Tennessee to the East Coast for Virginia transportation. You could make the argument that agent doesn't have discretion to use Virginia on one and Henson and Atkins on the other because they've got divided territories. But we're talking about somebody who, let's say, even down to the point of being an Uber comes to freight. Even if they divided the market, unless they divided the market up and they could choose to give it to Jay or Hank, then they should have a license.
Anybody have something they want to ask Hank? You've got Hank Seaton, transportation lawyer, decades of experience, right here live on the show. I mean, it's unbelievable. Hank, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. The other thing about it is, I have said to people, oh, well, not that there's, a huge risk that you're going to get sued, but some poor guy in California lost his commission. Getting a broker's license is a very simple process for an agent or anyone else, and it makes you legal and gives you some validity. There are a whole lot stronger penalties if you get caught for practicing law without a license. It's somewhat similar. In any industry in which a license is required, your bona fides is certainly questioned if you don't have it. It's not like you got to go to law school to get a broker's license. They've gotten to be very, very, very reasonable. And obviously, if you're not handling the money, all you got to do is follow the other regulations, which are really pretty straightforward.
So I'm going to make this argument because I know somebody out there is thinking it, is that dispatching doesn't pay very well in the first place. What if you don't have that $2,000 to set up a broker's license? You're just trying to book loads for a carrier. That's all you're trying to do. It was either that or go be an Uber driver. And
listen, look. If you want to be an exclusive agent and just be a booking agent, people like like Landstar have all kinds of agents, but they're exclusive. You know,
well, and you add a carrier because you're just trying to get more money. I mean, that's it. You're just trying to make more money. You got another carrier that needs a dispatcher.
I don't follow you. I mean, you know,
You don't.
when I ran a trucking company, I could have a guy who was going to be an exclusive agent for me in another city. But if he was going to set up a business and go out to the shipping public and say, I represent Hank and I represent Jay, then he needed a broker's license to do that. Now, you know, there's a difference between being an employee who's compensated on a percentage by a carrier and some guy who wants to go into the business selling for more people. And what I'm saying is it's not a huge burden if you're going to be a small businessman and you're told, okay, you're going to spend selling freight, to tell you to spend $2,000 in startup costs when an owner operator who buys a truck to do the same thing is stuck with $60,000 worth of investment.
Well,
so, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of reason to think it's a heavy entry barrier.
Well, here's the thing, and here's what I'm going to say, because again, I'm saying things that I know people are thinking. If there's one area of this that I really know in and out, it's dispatching. I was a dispatcher for years. Okay, and so the thing is that a carrier has the potential to make a lot more money than a dispatcher. A dispatcher is counting pennies. A driver's counting $100 bills. It's not even the same thing. Plus,
we can all value and devalue our own things, Jay. I don't agree with that at all. Because when you've got 50 guys you're dispatching, you're making dollars, and each one of those guys is making pennies per se.
But you can't dispatch 50 guys. That's not realistic. You can't. At best,
no,
you can
it's not realistic.
5.
But there are people that do it because they're hiding under the cloak with 40 people in their office, calling themselves a dispatcher when they're really a broker, and that's back to the same argument.
You're talking about brokers, though. You just said that.
Yeah, you're talking about brokers.
I agree.
You're not talking about dispatchers.
You use two terms here. You use the term dispatcher, okay? And I'm saying when we're talking about it, we're talking about someone who arranges for transportation. I would say as a business, if you go get the freight, and the freight's booked in the name of multiple people, and you know I don't handle the carrier relationships. I just work part-time for one guy's board and part-time for another. Then I'm not really sure that you're arranging for transportation more than you're. If you tell me you guys sitting in the back office acting as a dispatcher, i.e., he's got two sets of drivers, one for Hank and one for Jay, I'm not sure that's really arranging transportation. What we were talking about was people who are going out and selling, saying they're multiple agents.
That's right. And what you just said is what every dispatcher literally is thinking is, I do not arrange for transportation. It's a different job. I understand. Again, Ziggy, there are brokers pretending to be dispatchers. Let's set that over here. There are dispatchers that legitimately work for more than one driver because they can't make enough money with just one driver. They've got 3 other guys asking them, will you please be my dispatcher? They didn't talk them into it. They're not failed drivers. They're not con artists. They are literally trying to make a living by making phone calls, working from home, feeding the baby, and all that other stuff. That's all they're doing.
Making phone calls. Are you talking about making sales calls? Are you talking about manning a phone when somebody calls and says, listen, I'm calling for Hank. I hear you're their dispatcher. Make a pickup at X, Y, and Z. What I thought talking about is
see, dispatchers call the brokers themselves.
Yes.
And the brokers are the ones that send the load, or they dispatch the load to the carrier. Okay.
Do you know how many loads somebody would not get if they were to call a broker? And I went and saw that this dispatcher was an actual broker, no matter if she was doing it for her trucks or anybody's truck. Every broker is not okay with dispatching or giving their freight to another broker.
Well,
That
it's
could
double
that so
brokering.
just having a so just having a dispatcher to go get a brokerage bond, I would not think that that was a good idea. Maybe some type of surety bond, definitely to put their money where their mouth is. But that's going to cause a whole nother conversation because as a broker, I'm not going to, no, I just legally gave you a situation for you to back solicit. I double broker my own stuff. I don't think so. So a dispatcher represents a carrier. A dispatcher truly represents a carrier in the capacity to handle the administrative side, to communicate. If I'm your power of attorney, you can even negotiate money on my behalf because you're not collecting money in your name. You're not collecting monies or making the deal on my behalf. I agreed with the deal. If you call and say, hey, I booked you 3 loads for Tennessee to pick up tomorrow, can you look at them, let me know everything okay? You are a bona fide independent dispatcher to me. If you're making those deals with another broker, you know, hey, the driver's going to pick up 400, you put 100 on my Cash App, you know, that's a different situation. That happens too. So I don't think a brokerage bond would impress anybody who has their own freight when you call me to get my loads as a dispatcher.
Well,
loads not available.
Let me ask you this, because the dispatch services that the quote dispatchers, the situation that I run into is where folks who, let's say, may have worked in the business for a large carrier decide they want to go out on their own, and they go to a couple of small carriers and they say, I will be your sales agent in a territory. But what they do as a sales agent is they pass out a card. It doesn't say call Seaton Transport. It says call Joe Jones. And then Joe Jones, when he gets the call from the broker, has the right to decide, okay, Mr. Broker, I'll put the freight with either Seaton Transport or J Express. Now, you know, at that point, when the guy is inserting himself as an intermediary and having the right to choose which carrier to use, you got a completely different situation than one in which Seaton goes out and puts out a rate list to JB Hunt or whoever else it is, or to the shipper, and says, I'll haul your freight for $1.15 a mile. And then the question just becomes that JB Hunt calls a phone number that's picked up by Jay, and Jay answers at Seaton Transport and books the load. At that point, Jay's part of my ordinary circumstances, and he doesn't have the decision to take that load from Hunt and give it to somebody else. It's when the intermediary is not just fulfilling 2 jobs and answering 2 phones and facilitating freight that's already been solicited by the carrier. That's a completely different deal. The thing I'm talking about is when the intermediary runs a call board. The intermediary is in the business of soliciting and making available in his own name the role as an intermediary.
Right.
If you know, someone that's a lead broker is certainly not going to object to calling a number that he verifies with the carrier is the person who's handling his dispatch function, because once he gets out of the idea of a theft or a hijack and accepts whoever answers that phone as the dispatcher, I don't think you've got a double brokerage situation. I don't think you need a broker's bond to do that, because whoever's answering the phone is answering as a representative of the company that's being hired, without the ability to then take the call and give it to whatever carrier he chooses. And it's that being a bona fide agent is being part of the ordinary structure of the carrier. And, you know, if there are 5 little carriers and they all can't afford but one dispatcher, then, you know, let them hire one guy, but that guy shouldn't be out there soliciting and should owe the obligation to respond to the customer who calls on behalf of the carrier who has solicited the freight, not being out there soliciting and ultimately making the decision of who to give it to. That's where the problem comes, I think.
Well, and there's an economic barrier here. There's no way for a 3-car hauler to have one dispatcher that only works for him, and that dispatcher can sustain that business model. That dispatcher will go out of business and have to go do something else. And now the carrier's
Absolutely.
left doing it themselves. That's
That's
going
true.
on all around America right now.
Well,
Yep.
look.
I agree with you, Jay.
You know, maybe auto hauling is something completely different, but I do another blog chat with a bunch of guys who've only got 2 or 3 trucks.
Yeah,
And
right.
Their wife dispatches for them. I don't know. It may be unique to you auto haulers, but I'm hard pressed to say that out of the 535,000 carriers, 90% of which have less than 5 trucks, they can't figure out how to dispatch their freight without going out and hiring one guy to represent multiple carriers.
Well, and they do that, but let's bring it down to the individual owner-operator. How many carriers operating in the United States right now are one truck Charlie? A lot. I mean, it's a lot. I don't know the number. It's at least 5 figures, if not 6, right?
I would say 65 to 70%.
And so all those one individual car haulers, they are so busy running around trying to race the ELD and traffic and hair appointments and all this stuff. They really rely on somebody to man the phones and handle that, to look for loads, to make the phone calls. And the person they rely on cannot make enough money off of just that one truck. They have to work for multiple trucks. They're running a legitimate business in the eyes of business legitimacy. I mean, they're honest, they're moral, but apparently, according to the law, they're illegal.
And look, now wait a minute. You are missing, I don't know whether you're intentionally doing it to be argumentative.
I'm not.
But missing the point. If there is a dispatcher who wants to sit and wants to sit in an office and doesn't want to be a broker and wants to have to answer calls, that's fine. If he wants to go out and solicit for and on behalf of 5 or 6 different carriers, he can certainly do that. He needs a broker's license. He's not double brokering it because he, in terms of double brokering, because he's not even handling the money. He's got a broker.
He's not a broker, but he needs a broker's license.
That's right.
But he's not a broker. Right. I mean, at least we know that he's not a broker. But he's not a broker.
You are not looking at the definition of a broker. You're saying he's not a broker. You're saying he's not a broker because he doesn't handle for money, and the regulation doesn't say anything about handling money. The regulation says he becomes a broker when he arranges for transportation and is not part and parcel of the operation of a single motor carrier. When he can go out and, I mean, I wouldn't be very happy about having a broker say, all right, look, you're my dispatcher, and I know you're representing other people, and I'm not so damn sure that you're not shopping the freight. What makes it say that when you go to Mannheim and I'm coming in, somebody else is, you're going to treat me fairly? Are you going to, if you're dispatching for 5 people and one's your brother-in-law? I mean, at that point, at some point, I wouldn't be all that damn happy about giving that kind of power to a dispatcher. Because the problem
And Hank, there's also people nowadays calling themselves dispatchers that are actually collecting the money on top of everything else.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Well, those are brokers.
What kind of business?
I agree. That's what we've said.
What kind of business are you going to develop if you're
those are the ones that give a bad name to dispatchers?
Are you going to have a covenant not to compete with him? Are you going to just be at his mercy in terms of whether get a load this week?
I wanted to ask Mr. Seaton, what about non-competes? You know, is there? I missed earlier. Mr. Seaton said when he defined what a dispatcher, the role of a broker, you said something about the role that they play with the company. Is what makes them. I can't remember exactly what you said, but I was trying to figure out how do you define if he's doing. How do you define and say he's not an active part of your company? You know, what says that dispatcher, this dispatching, is not an active part of your day-to-day operation?
Well, I view most companies as having a dispatcher or a driver manager having a customer service that typically is a customer service rep who goes out and solicits business on the phone. They go call their contacts, try to get loads for the dispatcher to put on trucks. Now, if you get to be any size, that's what they do. But then there has been, ever since I've been around, guys who wanted to work out of their house and make calls on behalf of carriers. Maybe they weren't full-time working for Leeway or Roadway, but they had their own little stable of customers, and a carrier would go out and hire somebody in Minneapolis who had a following, and the guy would be arranging for transportation. He'd be calling customers in Minneapolis to get loads for Tennessee-based carriers every day. But that guy was, as long as he worked for an individual company as an independent sales agent, that was fine. But if he went out and got to the point where he was the brother-in-law of some traffic manager and was getting all the freight that was originating at Purina, and then was doling it out to 5 or 6 different people, that's broke.
Yeah, that's
even
different
if they
from
were
dispatching.
his 5 or 6.
That's what I.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh man, this is
even
so
if they were
wild.
his 5 or 6 dispatch companies that he dispatched, if he were only giving it out.
That's the problem. Regardless of what you call yourself, if you have the discretion to allocate the freight among multiple parties, and you're not an exclusive agent for a particular carrier, at that point, I think you, under the definition, you need a broker's bond.
Just because you have just because you have the discretion. I mean, I have the discretion to drive off the road, but I don't. I mean, just because I have the discretion doesn't mean I'm a risk on the road. I mean, I just don't understand how the dispatch category has so much weight of assumption of problem. It's so strange, and there's no definition.
It's a gap. It's a big gap.
Weird.
The problem is you are defining dispatch.
Right. It's not defined.
Nomenclature that has nothing necessarily that is disconnected from the sales function. Ordinarily, a dispatcher at a trucking company receives a call and puts it on a truck. He doesn't go and solicit freight, and he doesn't have the power over an operation to control the freight of a shipper and then allocate it among carriers.
I think, Jay, sounds like the definition of a dispatcher in car hauling and a dispatcher in like freight is totally interpreted differently.
Well, and in fact, I don't think it exists.
I literally,
that's always the funnest argument. The law is the law, which is just
and the interpretation.
Well, and we know humans don't really work that way. I mean, we like to say that's the way, everything is the law, and put the cube in the circle. No, that's not how humans actually work. But that's okay. That's fine. Listen, even though dispatching has existed for I don't even know how long. Apparently there is no definition, and it's a made-up job, and it doesn't really exist, right? Like there's brokers.
No, nobody said that. Now it's a play game, and that's bullshit.
Okay, Ziggy, I let you have your way, saying that all dispatchers are disguised as brokers. I mean, there's got to be.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Definition for a broker.
Okay.
If you meet the definition for a broker, you need a license. There's no definition for a dispatcher, but if an individual acts like a broker, he needs a license. If he doesn't
Agreed.
like a
Yes.
broker, he doesn't.
And that
There's
is
no
a
legal definition for a dispatcher.
there is no definition for dispatcher. I think
No
that's the biggest
legal
problem.
definition.
There's no legal
Look,
definition.
Jay, I could say that I can be a chiropractor, but if I practice medicine, I've got to have an MD to do it.
I understand.
It's not recognized by the medical office. The FMCSA doesn't recognize the term dispatcher. They do recognize the term broker. They do recognize the term broker. And if you fit the definition, you got to have a license.
And there is, right. And then essentially, and that's the thing, isn't it? The FMCSA does not recognize a dispatcher, right?
Listen, the ICC didn't recognize the dispatcher as a regulated party.
Well, and that's another thing. The ICC is mentioned in the law. Is the ICC still in existence today?
No, but the regulations.
Right. Okay, but isn't that interesting? That's how old the law is. That it's referencing an organization that doesn't exist anymore.
Look, the Constitution was passed in 1776, and it's still the law. Are you saying because it's old you can disregard it?
Never argue with a lawyer. That is crazy. No, I'm not trying to argue with you. But
it was just a reductio ad absurdum because your argument was.
Here's what I am saying though, Hank, is it's weird that we have this shadow industry that many people know of dispatchers, but it doesn't legally exist. It's very interesting, isn't it?
Again, that's not what my original discussion was. There are people acting as brokers that are disguising themselves as a dispatcher, not as a broker. My exact thing from the beginning is there are people that have committed freight to them to disperse to whatever trucking companies they can find that collect the money, disperse the money, negotiate with the carrier after they've already negotiated the price with the shipper.
That's a broker.
And you're right, and that's what I'm talking about. There's people doing that are now calling themselves dispatchers because they don't want to contend with the legal proper way of doing a brokerage.
And that's a problem.
That's what the whole conversation was over.
I agree with you, but there's also people acting as dispatchers on behalf of carriers that have nothing to do with brokering. There is.
Agreed.
Okay, cool.
Look, Jay,
cool.
Jay,
Yeah.
I have never slammed, nor have I intended to, somebody who answers a phone for 3 different people who have previous business relationships with those folks and act in a dispatch function. The gentleman who just laid out the situation in which somebody had a high hold on a shipper and was out here handing out loads and cutting deals and said he wasn't a broker is what I'm saying is a sales agent. The ones the term dispatcher is something that you've inserted into it. What M&S was, they thought just an independent sales agent, and it's the guy who goes out and makes the sale, and ultimately may get a kickback. Hell, he may be the son-in-law of the dispatcher of the carrier. Of the shipper, and he's sitting here as an intermediary arranging for transportation. There are people who claim they're 4PLs and they get the money from the shipper for arranging for the transportation, and they say, "Well, gee, I'm just a shipper's agent." No, they're a broker. Because they're the ones that are in the middle cutting the deal, and they're not part of the ordinary thing, and they're making the selection of what carriers use. Even though they may not, the deal may be don't bill the broker, bill Cass National Bank, and the money runs through the shipper. But they're still arranging for transportation.
And taking...
But they're still making the choice of the carrier.
And the money's going through them in this scenario, right?
No, it's going through Cass.
It's going through the carrier. Okay.
It doesn't matter where it goes through.
And so in this scenario, the sales agent is a broker and therefore needs a broker's license. It's almost like every scenario leads back to you're a broker.
Well, yeah, I mean, but what the thing that you have put into play that I'm certainly willing to contemplate is that in the small car hauling business, unlike the freight business, there are these guys who serve as a multiple voice at the end of the phone taking orders for trucks,
Yes.
not people who are out there on the street selling the services of 4 or 5 different carriers, and then arranging for transportation for compensation, not bona fide agents. And as the case law said, a bona fide agent is someone who is a part of the carrier's day-to-day operations and doesn't have the ability to allocate between individuals. Now, if I'm a dispatcher and I don't try to get a shipper on the phone and say, well, gee, I'll use Peter, I'll use Hank, and the guy calls up, and I'm basically taking calls and putting it on trucks and doing separate stovepipe jobs for 5 different carriers, then I don't think anybody would say that that's prohibitive. It's the situation that the early gentleman talked about that I see as abuses, and those are the cases that I have seen litigated, and the cases that the California case and F&M deals with.
So I wanted to give some background, Hank. Here's the thing: is that I'm telling you something that I was hired into years ago, and there are many people brought into this business model. I'm not defending it. I don't work in it now, but I don't understand how so many people know of this business model and yet the law doesn't recognize its existence. It's strange.
Well, now, are you telling me that you were hired by multiple carriers to go out and solicit?
Not solicit.
Or competitors?
Let me clarify. I mean, this word solicit, I'm going to definitely walk around the word solicit like it's Indiana Jones. The thing is that I was hired to make phone calls for loads posted on load boards. I don't think I was soliciting. I believe I was directed to look for loads that would make sense to that carrier. And I had discretion to negotiate and choose, but all that thought process was all for that carrier, and it was their choice. They hired me to do that.
That's absolutely correct, Jay. I don't think car hauler dispatchers really solicit any loads.
Yeah,
because
in the beginning,
solicit loads. I don't know.
We don't solicit any loads. We actually log into the carrier, each individual carrier's dashboard, central dispatch or cars arrive, whichever load board that they have, and they actually even give you their passwords to be able to facilitate
take it, do
everything.
It. Yeah, absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? So they give you their passwords and everything else. So that which entails that you actually really employed by that carrier. And regardless how many carriers there are, you are representing each individual one with their passwords. You pretty much kind of like have the power of attorney to get loads for them, and you don't handle any money. They actually pay you. You don't even handle any money. Whether you get a load that is a com check or a quick pay or a COD, that money never comes to you when the driver delivers the vehicle.
Yeah, you never handle money.
You never handle any money.
You guys are telling me that these quote dispatchers really aren't selling any freight. All they're doing is you tell them, listen, I'm going to be in Dubuque. Go to the call boards and find out what's available, getting me out of Dubuque, coming back.
Exactly.
Nailed
Pretty
it.
much.
Nailed
that's
it.
You nailed
one
it right
side
there.
of a dispatcher, though.
Yep.
But that's one type of dispatcher. This show is about the open. How many types of people are using the term dispatch? That is one type of dispatcher. Everybody on this panel has talked about one different type of dispatcher.
Okay, that's true.
But when you put it all together in the bowl, I thought the show was to determine the difference between not really a dispatcher, because we see it's 50 types of 50 shades of dispatch.
But
what is the difference between the legal obligation of a broker and a dispatcher? And I hear Mr. Seaton in my head. I still hear an interpretation because what you're saying would not put you in the capacity. He's saying, what I get is if you're dispatching, just like Muzi just said, for 4 or 5 companies, you're just getting loads for them, facilitating, making schedule, administrative, then he's saying, to what I get is that you're still operating as a broker if you're doing that for more than one company. Even if you have a non-compete or a power of attorney, would that situation change this? Or are you still acting in the capacity of a broker, even if you're just doing administrative? And that's what I was getting at earlier. What's the capacity? I mean, are you working directly for all of those carriers to be able to say, I don't have to be a broker because I have a contract, a power of attorney, or I'm doing all this administrative stuff?
Kandy, I want to pause you for a second, though. The thing is that we're very close to Hank knowing this sector of dispatching. And yes, the carrier is going to Iowa. That was his idea. And he says, I'm busy driving. Please look at the load boards on my behalf. You have all my passwords. Find me some good cars to get me home. And the dispatcher, acting on behalf of the carrier, does it.
Let's put it this way. The situation that you all are talking about is unique. It is unique in the sense that, like you say, it is an administrative function. What you're telling me is that there really, since it's spot market stuff, there's really no chance of that dispatcher using his personal rapport with C.H. Robinson to call up and say, "Hey, look, this is Jay. I really need help out today because I got somebody in Dubuque," as opposed to having C.H. Robinson calling Jay and saying, "Hey, Jay, can you help me out? I know you represent 5 carriers. Find somebody who'll help me with getting out of Dubuque."
Totally.
And when it's done,
both of those apply.
When it's pushed,
hold on, Kandy, though. You're there.
Jay,
you're Hank. That you're there. That's it.
And deciding and going out and hunting carriers, then he's really fulfilling a sales function, not just what I would say is otherwise something you can program a computer to do. I don't mean to demean dispatch, but we used to have the DAT service, and you paid them a little extra, and you put in the radius, and they scanned everything and said, "Here are 3 loads. Pick which one you want." I understand that maybe some of the other things aren't so sophisticated, but it really didn't take a whole lot of time to get the computer to figure out what available load got you back home at the maximum freight. And I think that's
let's step it up, but let's step it up a notch.
Problematic.
Well, here's a problem. Go ahead.
In the F&M situation, F&M didn't have a broker's license, but had a contract with Christian Berry that said that they were going to get a 5% rake off on every load handled for, I guess it was UPS, for 3 years.
That's a broker.
Now, at that point, they were selling freight, and they had a sales commission for bringing UPS to Christensen. If what you're talking about is not something that vests a future business on the dispatcher, he's just manually hunting loads without becoming an arranger of transportation. And I can see that there's a distinction, because that hadn't been addressed in the case law.
There's a very big
You're
distinction,
right,
actually, Mr. Hank. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Hank, you're here's the thing is, Kandy, I agree with you. There are many shades of a dispatcher, and I love that movie. No, I'm serious, but in this section of what we're talking about, it's very important that Hank knows what Muzi and I are specifically talking about, because I have thought this whole time, Hank, that you don't know our sector and you're learning it right now. And I appreciate the law is the law. I get it. And we have laws, and there's a reason we have them. But in this case, a dispatcher is working to facilitate logistics for a carrier. He's not handling money. He's not like doing sales for the shipper. And now here's the thing is, and it's being brought up, that let's take it a step higher. Let's say the driver says, I'm going to be in Dubuque. You can either send me home or you can send me to Nashville, wherever I can make more money. It's still a dispatcher. Even though the dispatcher is helping the carrier choose where he can make more money. It's being brought up that as long Dave is saying as soon as a dispatcher makes any decisions, he's a broker. That still doesn't fit. That's not how it works. I don't understand. I really don't.
Well, you know, Scott,
there's a very big, clear difference between the dispatching. Actually, what I've noticed, Jay, you know, and probably everybody else that does car hauling in transportation industry is a very peculiar and very specific movement of a specific commodity. And because, you know, our trailers, our trailers are even different than most of the trailers that everybody else uses, the vans, and, you know, the car hauling industry tends to be a little different from freight. And we get confused too with the definitions of moving from what freight calls a dispatcher and what car haulers call a dispatcher, because we still haven't defined when a broker sends a load to a carrier, what do you call that aspect there? How do you define that? When a broker sends a load to a carrier, what is that name?
Dispatch. That's where people got the term, I need a dispatcher.
Exactly.
Who gave me the load? Who do I call to get work from? It's always a dispatcher.
Well,
even
listen,
a brokerage company has a dispatch department.
That's true.
You know, you guys are using dispatch, and I'm sure that it's unique to your segment of the industry, but very typically, and this is even, you know, I'm going to be at a convention this weekend that's with an outfit that represents 8,000 small carriers, and the average size is 5 or less. And if I use the term dispatcher with them, they wouldn't look at it the way you do. You have in the rest of the freight usually written bilateral contracts between major shippers and brokers or other carriers. And today I heard a presentation by AATA, and they said that surprisingly, the vast majority of freight moves under long-term contracts, and the spot market looked like it was really small. Well, the fact of the matter is, most of the spot market freight is moves pursuant to a contract between the shipper and a broker, or the shipper and another carrier, and then gets turned out to the spot market. That's why that you know, I imagine the people that are posting on the load boards are by and large not just shippers, but other brokers and intermediaries. So what you have then is the load is posted. There's a negotiation between the carrier and the broker or the shipper that results in a load confirmation sheet. That load confirmation sheet should typically come over to the customer service rep or the dispatcher at the home office of the carrier, or it comes over the Qualcomm system to the guy sitting in the truck and is signed off on. Once the load confirmation sheet is issued, then the driver is dispatched to the location. The typical term dispatch is when the load and the deal has been made, and the driver manager in the company, who is the one that's in daily contact with the driver, says, "Hey, Bubba, are you unloaded?" you got to go pick up this unit or that unit. So the dispatch function is a part separate from the customer service relationship. The
Right.
situation, the situation that seems a little creepy here is if you say, well, gee, the only thing that the dispatcher is doing is hunting loads that are posted on the call board, that's fine. But then if this dude, whoever he is making a commission off of the loads and can develop his own ins and outs,
That's a
his own
broker.
personal rapport, then I think you're getting
Yes.
to more just a clerical function.
Then you are. You are now entering brokering. If you are getting into the level where you're soliciting shippers, right? You are
Yep.
now a broker. I totally agree. Many dispatchers never get to that level though. They're literally just looking at load boards, making sure it's a run and drive. That's all they're doing. That's a lot of people.
Well, let's put it this way. Let's say that you have got an enterprising dispatcher who doesn't have a broker authority, and you say, look, I want you just to mindlessly search on the board. You're getting paid a commission. I want you to be entrepreneurial. And he says, well, gee, I think I'll just go down to CarMax and see if they can use my stable of folks. I'll get a commission if I can talk up the my little five truck operation. Maybe I'll get the calls directly from CarMax. Now, if it sounds like the dispatch function, which is just if you keep it down to where it's just looking at the call board, is something that well, I've got one client, the guy that I do this broadcast with. He's got two high school girls, and they take turns manning the phone for his two truck operation. They're not exactly going to go out and solicit the freight, but if you get a good dispatcher, hell, he's going to be his own businessman.
Well, what's interesting is that dispatcher, if that dispatcher doesn't improve your business, get rid of the dispatcher. And that's the other thing. I'm not saying, lazy or not. There's all these insertions of assumptions and arguments and opinions. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's the job that some people do. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe whatever. Maybe it is lazy. Maybe you're not lazy. Regardless, this job function is not illegitimate just because it's not in the dictionary. Or is it?
Well, another thing too, Jay, that
illegitimate is look. I didn't say anybody was going to get
Hank, I didn't say you said
jail
that.
for it. I just
I'm
said
talking
if
about
you're a dispatcher and you don't have a bond, you may end up with an unenforceable contract.
Well, I know that, and that's actually what this show is about. Because what's interesting, Hank, so many people, just like I didn't know this 5 years ago, but I did not know that the job I was doing required a broker's license under the law. I did not know that, and that's what this show is all about, and the debate therein. And I guess whether people are lazy or not, or whether there's a conspiracy or whatever. But the point is that there is a lot. For so many people doing a job that they think they're doing the best for on behalf of the carrier, did not know that they're in some kind of legal water. Weird, right?
Well, I mean, I think the question really kind of comes down. I've told you what the law is. I think the thing comes down to is this intermediary, this individual, going to be in his own trade or business? Is his own trade or business going to be that, well, gee, I got this stable of dedicated carriers. Now I'm going to act as the agent for multiple carriers. The broker regulations say, and the case law says, that a broker can be the agent of the shipper, the agent of the carrier, or an independent contractor. So what we're saying is, it would make good sense for a guy who wants to get into brokerage to say, well, gee, I'll go out and get me a stable of dependable carriers that work a particular area, and I'll be their dispatcher. And then now that I've got people that are getting into Chicago all the time, I go to Chicago and solicit a bunch of freight, and I won't even have to worry about billing it. I'll just call up old Hank and say, boy, I got a load from Chicago to Nashville for you. Here it goes. I got you a good rate. I got you $650. And, at that point, maybe he gets his kickback somewhere else. But at that point, he's crossed the border.
Well, where did kickback come from, though? I mean, here, let me ask you this. Davis is really set on that I'm ignoring negotiations, so let's talk about it. Are you saying as soon as a dispatcher engages in a negotiation, they're now a broker or breaking the law? Is there a law about this?
Well, the broker regulations say that the broker cannot have an interest in the freight. So, in other words, in theory, if I were...
But how can a broker not have interest in the freight when they're getting paid to move the freight?
If I were Hunter Biden and I got my job because of who my dad was, then and I was making money off of it, I'd have to disclose that. I mean, if the paternalism...
I thought that was record keeping, though.
Broker's supposed... If I act as an agent for a carrier, I shouldn't have a cozy relationship with the shipper. It's in the regulations.
Okay, so nobody can.
How is that fitting?
Yeah, no. So nobody can negotiate rates. I mean, is that what we're getting at? No, I didn't know that. Is negotiation illegal? I'm not saying that you said that, Hank. I'm asking you.
I just said it's one thing. I think, and I had dispatchers. The dispatcher was called, by our customer, and our customer said, "Hey, look, can you handle a load to Chicago?" And he says, "Yeah, I'll set it up," and it was done. He wasn't talking about rates. He wasn't getting a commission. He was a paid employee, and he sat there and worked for the company. So he didn't have the opportunity to make a commission off of arranging or doing a subterfuge. The big carriers that have sales agents are really very tight on them because of this very issue. And that is, it's not infrequent that the sales agents wake up and find out that their agent's been running freight around them. Mm-hmm. It's a systemic problem.
But that goes for every. I mean, anybody can break the law at any time. It doesn't mean a whole category of work is suspect.
No, it doesn't. But the broker regulations provide some continuity for it. They provide a bond, some legitimate. I mean,
Well, and there's a much higher risk though in the broker business because you are interfacing shippers, handling money, right?
Yep.
I mean, there's a much higher risk, I believe.
We've already taken the money aspect out of it by the definition, by your definition that they're not handling the money.
Well, that's why. That's because it's a different job.
And not only that, not only that, we're not handling money, Jay, as dispatchers. The car hauler dispatchers are already sorting out the loads that already exist. We don't go and incept any new loads. We don't go to central dispatch and post loads. We don't go to Cars Arrive and post loads already or on any load board. We just facilitate the loads that already exist. We just sort them out for the carriers. That's all.
Some people do. I know that's getting into a different type of dispatcher. But just like Central Dispatch says, if you post a load that is not a non-COD, that requires any kind of contractual terms or payment, then you're operating fairly through Central. Central says if you're not a broker and you're paying COD or COP where there's a like AB transaction, then they say you're not operating in a broker capacity. So it's so many different, and I understand there's just a lot of, to me, it's more about transparency and the dishonest, just being dishonest and not being clear with the people you're dealing with. But for the most part, I see where dispatchers are really doing a big service I'm still kind of lost about one thing. I don't know what the elephant in the room is. I don't know if I'm lost. Is that not the topic of the show? Like, I just don't want to be lost with that. What's the elephant?
But I'm not sure.
I think it's the
sure
elephant is really
elephant
the
in the room.
definition of what a dispatcher is. I mean,
Oh, that's 50
especially
Shades of everything. Yeah. Okay.
especially in the transportation industry. I mean, you can have police officers are dispatched to a crime scene. you know,
True.
so the term dispatcher is really vague. It can be used, vaguely in any way. I mean, a taxi is dispatched to a customer to go and pick up someone.
If I were talking about dispatch, I would say that dispatch is the function of telling a truck where to go. It's not a function of, somebody calls into carrier 911 and they get somebody who receives a complaint. Now that complaint then is turned over to a dispatcher who sends a cop out to do it. The cop didn't solicit the complaint. He didn't. He wasn't walking a beat when somebody was robbed. It was a call in, and once it was called in, the person was dispatched. When the fire bell rings, the fire people are dispatched to the house to put out the fire. The dispatch function, to me, is a function once load is identified and booked. Where do you send the truck? And in terms of
but if things change, the dispatcher reacts.
It's not really a dispatch function. Our discussion last time got started about people who were acting, I thought, as sales agents for multiple entities, and that's the issue. The fact that they were interfacing with the customer on behalf of multiple carriers was the issue. Now, when you say, well, gee, with the call board, you're not really interfacing with the customer. The load's already published. You're just hunting for it. That may be something else, and it may not be a violation of the law, but it's not what I consider dispatch.
Wow.
I think there will always be a big gap in this.
I think there will too.
Dealing with household. Well, look how FMCSA deals with household movers, the rules and regulations. I know since the 70s, because you deal more with civilians, you're dealing more with consumers than you are businesses. There is always, you have 9 to 10 different clients, customers on your truck when you're a car hauler. You could potentially, if you're a small business dealing with different clients, you can have 27 different relationships on one trailer at a time. A broker, a dealer, or a consumer, just a regular individual moving their car. So there are always going to be a lot more stipulations with this part of our industry, just because you're not dealing directly with businesses all the time who are operating in a commercial capacity. Everybody does not have the same legal obligation, just like drivers getting, going to deliver a car and not getting paid. It was COD, taking bad checks, not knowing that, a personal check, they may never collect off of it. Dealing with individuals is different.
See, listen, part of the problem here is I'm talking about laws that have been around and been unchanged for 40 years. When you start talking about the FMCSA, there's nobody over there that knows or cares. So you're only caring about safety. They did away with the cargo insurance requirements because they said that every shipper should read the cargo policy. They don't think that establishing rules of commerce is part of their charge. So all I can say is, don't anybody go ask them, because
it's scary.
They wouldn't understand what dispatch was. They wouldn't understand what sales agent is. There's nobody over there in that shop that can issue an interpretation about it. And I don't want to. When we had the discussion last time, it wasn't my intent to come out with some foggy old regulation from 40 years ago and say that, anybody who's on this call is doing anything illegal. I'm just saying that in terms of the trucking industry and actually car hauling, they don't. Maybe you get an overhang on a weight limit, but otherwise, a car hauling is just like hauling property, and the broker regulations apply to car hauling just like they do to. They don't apply to household goods moving quite the same way. That's a carve out, but otherwise, it doesn't matter whether you've got a tanker or a dry van or a flatbed or a car hauler. All of these other rules of regulation are kind of the same. I don't really what's being done doesn't offend me. I don't think anybody's going to jump your case. I'm just saying it's not what the law requires, and I think you'd be remiss for guys who had 5 or 10 little carriers to say, well, gee, we're all going to pay a commission to somebody to go solicit freight out of Manheim. Because, at that point, I guess as he's walking down the aisles trying to put together car loads, he really is kind of acting like a broker. You don't know whether he's going to give that sedan to carrier B or carrier C. Was that what you were doing, Jay?
Will you ask me the end of that question again? Was
I said, were you going to the auctions and helping 4 or 5 different guys assemble loads coming out?
No, what I was doing was on the phone working with 5 carriers at a time. I had all their passwords to all their load boards. I acted on their behalf, making decisions, choosing running lanes, negotiating rates, doing everything that they would personally be doing. I was acting on their behalf so they could focus on driving and loading. There's a million things for car haulers to do. We know it's a tough job. It's very tough. And so they could focus on their job in the name of safety and business. They had me doing things they just physically didn't have time to do. That's what
happened. There was a conflict. Both of them were in Manheim in Pennsylvania, and both of them need to come south.
What are the chances? I had a guy run in North Carolina. I had a guy in Nashville. I had a guy like a 3-car running like Oklahoma, Dallas. I had a guy running Detroit to Texas. How many cities are there in the United States, and how is it possible that the same 3-car, 5-car is going to be at the same city on the same day, going the same direction? What are the odds? Honestly, maybe once or twice I had the same driver in the same city on the same day going the same way. Maybe once or twice in 5 years. I still don't. These are load boards. It's not like, it's not like it's totally stagnant. Hopefully there's not just one car sitting there and I've got 2 carriers fighting over 1 car. Because if that's what we're doing, oh man, we better rethink the whole thing.
I guess in my world, I see the conflict.
You see a conflict there? I'm glad I'm not doing it anymore. I'm glad we're talking in retrospect.
Kind of thing.
But I didn't have a broker's license. I didn't. No one even talked about that. I never heard that.
Work lanes, but I got the idea that in the expediters and some of the other people, it's much more free flowing. You may have a substantial deadhead depending on the time of the year. Snowbirds are coming out of Florida. It seems to me like there are density issues. There's frequency issues. I would think there'd be more conflict if you were representing 4 or 5 people, but I don't know.
Well, listen. Here's the thing: is that again, as soon as I hear You know, when we were talking 2 months ago on Transport Legal, and really before that, I've heard rumblings of this issue for a while. I think it was probably a year ago when a broker first said to me, I think a dispatcher needs a broker's license. I think it was actually, it might have been Melissa at the brokerage. I think it was a year ago when she was on my show and she was talking about that. Is when she first started to raise, and I know Ziggy and I have talked about this. I don't even know how long ago. So I've known about this for a while, but I never heard of this when I was a dispatcher. And it's odd that there are so many dispatchers that I think are operating, I mean, at least morally, maybe not legally, but morally, on behalf of carriers, trying to just do the best job they can. And they have to work for more than one because there just isn't enough money in working for one. And if there is, then they're an employee of a company that's doing great and has all kinds of other, you know, they've got cubicles and all that stuff. But that is not most of the dispatchers that I've heard of, that I've talked to, that have confronted me, asking me if I can help find them carriers. I've had carriers asking me for these individuals that perform these services. It's not like a small sector of people being tricked. This is a nationwide concept, and it has been for years. I didn't create it. It found me. And now we're here talking about it as if legally it didn't exist. It's so strange. But I mean, that's where your input is so valuable. And the fact that you're listening is so valuable too, because, like, I don't know, maybe there's not many people in the legal arena that actually have this information. You might be in the minority of that. Like,
well, I don't know about that. I guess I've been talking this past week about the Amazon effect, and the rich and powerful, they don't even understand whether or not Amazon's home delivery is intra or interstate. And most people don't think it makes a difference. And now you've got a court in one state saying it's intrastate and another one saying it's inter. So, a lot of people really say, well, hell, the law is so damn inconsistent. If you can't even get those kinds of things straight, who's going to worry about a dispatch, especially with the nuances you're talking about? And again, as I say, what pushed my button is that I had heard, not in the auto industry, but in the other freight industry, that there were all kinds of people who said, well, gee, as long as the carrier bills the money, I can represent as many people as I want to. And that's not true.
And that's where we get into, I mean, again, there's always going to be shady people that pop up. And in my industry news, I have shared text communications where, I mean, clearly somebody's being shady. Unfortunately, it's oftentimes the broker. And this is where a lot of brokers have gotten a really bad name. But I explained to dispatchers and carriers that brokers actually serve a function. Look at me playing devil's advocate. A lot of carriers and dispatchers don't think this industry even needs brokers. I'm like, no, we actually do. Who's going to educate the shipper? Who's going to deal with all that? Handling the money, negotiating the rate, doing the education. Yeah, brokers actually perform a function, like it or not.
And dispatchers actually educate the industry too. Dispatchers, a lot of the independent dispatchers are just like a study partner in college. It's a lot of good independent businesses it's drivers who've been company drivers. They've drove for owner operators who decide to get their own truck. Should they not succeed because they don't have experience in moving their own cargo or attaining their own loads? So I think the dispatchers, especially dispatch services, who run their whole operation pretty much, not to say they're going to do that for forever, but they could possibly, what's wrong with that? If that's his choice, if he doesn't, or he or she doesn't want to make the time or invest the time and energy into learning another sector of car hauling and says, I'm going to hire this legitimate or well-represented brand or company to dispatch me and my truck, then what's wrong with that? That's just another form of dispatch.
I understand what you're saying, but look, I represent a fair number of small brokers, and they would be more than happy in the big freight world to have a bunch of five or six five or six guys who've got one or two trucks. They turn to them to keep those trucks busy. In Nashville, I can name half a dozen small brokers that would love to be the dispatcher for guys who've got one or two trucks. And dispatchers, in the sense that uh, they want the stability of having a stable of carriers they can count on, rather than the spot market. You got to work this thing both ways. A lot of people just play on the people who are here today and gone tomorrow, qualify you on one load to be done. But in the real freight world, the big freight world, what you call a dispatcher would just simply be a small broker, and they would just say, "Hey, look, I want to treat you right because I'd like to make the commission off of brokering you and help you figure out what your lanes are and try to provide some structure." I agree with what you say that small carriers probably need to work with small brokers who actually have an in with continuous and dependable freight, rather than just going to the call boards. Because ultimately, if
Right.
if the call boards exclusively, you live and die by
You do.
it, and you're the first one that gets cut out.
Yes.
Freight's bad. So, if you're talking about coming up with a business plan for a small carrier, you're best off finding an honest broker who's got some consistent freight until you can develop your own. Because uh, just uh, just having to everybody's backhaul somebody's head haul, and I think at least on this other webcast we talk about, that guys are always preaching to small people: get your own freight, get something
Right.
that's dependable. If it's work with a dealer, if it's work with a work off the auction, whatever it is, you need to differentiate yourself over time from just having somebody go hit up a dollar truck. That's what it used to be called in the
Dollar
old days.
truck.
You went to a truck stop when you got empty, and you looked at the call board that was on the wall, and the truck driver picked up the phone and called the number of the broker, and that was what was your dispatch. The trucker got to the other end, stopped at the truck stop, and saw what was posted on the truck stop wall.
And I want to say two things. Number one, as we talked about, different segments of transportation, nobody talks about spot market in car hauling. That is a freight term. You hear it in freight all the time. You don't hear it in car hauling that much. And also, I want to say I agree with you. If your business strategy is not relying on you yourself building relationships, that in itself might be a problem. But that shouldn't be a direct correlation to the lack of a dispatcher having legal ability to do what a carrier asked them to do. And so that's the thing. That's the crux, is that, right or wrong, a dispatcher still serves a function that a carrier asked him to do. And it's not brokering.
And you're saying, what I hear you saying is that the dispatcher is going to enter into central dispatch or somebody as if he is the carrier, because he's got the carrier's key.
Amen.
And he's part of the ordinary carrier's point
Yes.
of contact.
Yes.
Because dispatch is going to recognize him as Jay's auto hauler, not as Seaton sales agent. And
Absolutely.
as long as it's done that way and it's with apparent authority, then I don't really see there being a whole lot of issue, other than the kinds of thing that spawned F&M. If there's a dispute between the parties, I don't see where the third party is heard, is as long as there's not possibility of theft or hijack or misappropriations. because you're basically, all 5 carriers are basically saying this guy's a bona fide part of my of my dispatch. I've even given him the key and my power of the pen, so to speak. So I don't see anybody getting crosswise doing that, as long as you realize that this dispatcher now is able to make commitments for the underlying carrier that the underlying carrier is going to have to live with.
And that's things. You know what? In that
great world, when the broker goes out and says, "Yeah, this carrier will handle that load. I know it's worth $500,000,000," and he doesn't have that much insurance. So
okay,
you got
that's due diligence, and that's broker due diligence. And again, brokers carry much more responsibility and risk on behalf of the shipper. But a dispatcher, since they don't see the money before the carrier sees it, it's going to be pretty hard to trick the carrier. I mean, they don't get paid until the carrier gets paid. How they gonna hide something? I don't really know how that is.
Well,
it's possible.
You're assuming that
the broker's going to pay the dispatchers on the side
in terms of what of what he accepts.
Never thought of that.
What his understanding of your insurance and capacity is.
I mean, anybody. I guess I don't know. Scammers will always exist, but I did not.
Yeah, you can.
I've never thought of getting a broker to pay me on the side, and the carrier never knew about it. I don't even know how you'd arrange that. It sounds pretty weird. Sounds like
you think about it, when you deal with you have a lot of the same relationships. If you're dispatching for 5 or 10 trucks, how many different brokers are there really that post or that you gather freight on that lane? It ends up being the same names. There's only so many players in the game.
Okay.
So it is a good chance.
Okay. So, I mean, but well, it gets down. You can't stop. I think there's a saying: you can't stop people from being thieves or something. I mean,
true. It is what it is. But that, to me, that's part of the education to learn to not just take your hands off your business. You have somebody managing it, but a manager does not, still accountable to the owner.
In that case, I mean, if the carrier doesn't feel like I've seen this, if the carrier doesn't feel like they're making enough money, they cut you loose.
Yep.
So there's your incentive to do a good job.
And this dispatcher, if a carrier is just he wants the convenience of a dispatch, but isn't making the dispatcher money, the dispatchers have to cut them loose.
Well, hey, and I've said to at least one carrier, listen, what we're doing, neither of us are making any money, and we need to do something different. I don't know what it is, but we got to do something different. You're going to go out of business, and I'm going to go out of business.
Yep, absolutely.
And then I'd say that's pretty good dispatching, just being real. Listen, man, we're going to go.
At what point? Let me ask you guys this: at what point in time does a small carrier hire a dispatcher to shag loads for him, and at what point does he try to cut a deal to handle the overflow of larger carriers?
Now I love the question, because this is a fundamental problem. Many brand new owner-operators, from day one, they're looking for a dispatcher. They don't know how to read the load boards. They don't know what the good rates are. They don't know, and they're starting off, I think, on the wrong foot. I talk about that on the show. Don't do that.
I think part of it is the wrong foot, but I think it could also be the right foot, having a dispatch service.
It can be. That's the thing. You're right. It can be.
It's perspective.
Yeah.
It's really perspective on how you want to manage your business, because to me, that's smart business. We do it. I take classes, you take classes. We learn things from people who have perfected and mastered their craft before us, not because we just want to take the cheap way out, because we want to be on point.
And
so if I were an operator, I would be serious, but I would choose my dispatch service or whoever was a part of my organization wisely based off of their portfolio. And that's the problem. A lot of independent dispatchers, they just come with gain, just like a leave. Like I said, when I was a broker, I still have sites where I can pull them on and get 100 leads a day or whatever to move cars. Because if you really master your craft and know what you're doing, then your talk game, whatever you got, is going to bring people in to go, I want to be a part of that because that looks like it's going somewhere. So I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to be a part of greatness. If you got a great dispatcher, why wouldn't I want to be a part of that company or that dispatch service?
And you know what? And the thing is, you raise a good point. It is a good point. This is why I think it's not proper just to go out and start calling somebody lazy or irresponsible or all brokers are liars, because it just this black and white talk, it's not productive and it's not true.
Nah, it's very not true. I call that the master's course. I would hire a good reputable dispatcher, or like you say, a small broker to represent me if I knew what I was doing or if I didn't know what I was doing, either way.
Listen, guys, you know what? We are, I've kept, Hank, I feel like I need to let you go. I know you're talking tomorrow, and this has been amazing.
I just need to go.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we've come to any ultimate thing.
Yeah, we have.
Kind of.
I think the question really is that in the rest of freight, there really is an issue of a guy being a non-exclusive agent for multiple people,
right?
And controlling the access to freight, and people that have worked the agent model for years have been very, very particular in terms of covenants not to compete, in terms of using the broker regulations to require disclosures so that aren't people that are being paid off up the supply chain for the rates. And all of that stuff is just good laws make good neighbors. I think you guys have got some particular issues, and I certainly don't want to suggest that I think anybody's doing anything illegal.
Yeah, well, that's the big question. Are dispatchers illegal? Anyways, there is no conclusion to this. This is to be continued. And Hank, I can't thank you enough. I also, man, thank you.
Okay, take care, and I'm gonna go so I can get up in the morning.
Okay, you have you have a great day tomorrow, Hank. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hank.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And listen, Muzi and Kandy, you guys, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add?
I support awesome, great independent dispatchers. I do. I don't think they're breaking the law. I think that the interpretation of the law is still just that.
Right.
It's colorful, 50 shades. And I hope that other people who can operate in a dispatch or small broker capacity continue to help those new and old in the industry to be better.
I agree with you there, Kandy. And just to add on to that too, Jay, I think maybe the FMCSA should, do a better job to probably, if they have defined what a broker is, they should also, really describe what a dispatcher is, especially when it entails into car hauling, because, car hauling is, like I said, a little peculiar industry that's a little different from quite a lot of, other industries, especially in freight, even though we are governed by the same laws. But I've noticed that what we do in car hauling is just a little bit different than in freight. And especially our definitions of, of dispatcher and broker and things like that, because I've noticed that in freight, the same broker there can have all the loads for the lanes, and they can also be a dispatch. They can also be a dispatcher, which is kind of
Yeah, and
different in
dominate
car
it.
hauling. You know,
Mhm.
in
Because we
car
deal with more
hauling,
people.
yeah,
But
it,
the thought of the FMCSA or any legal entity trying to put their arms around this topic seems,
Never.
I mean, that just, I can't see that going in any good direction. And it's not a knock
No.
against the government. It's just that, you try to look what happens if you try to update the tax code or health insurance laws. I mean, the whole thing goes haywire. I realize dispatching is different than health insurance and taxes, but I just can't see it being a simple, straightforward process. And I got to tell you, I don't know why the ICC is referenced in these laws. The ICC, what? How? When's the last time that existed?
I think
I don't.
the 80s.
The
and
80s,
I know
right?
it's at least.
And it's in the
I
laws.
long
want to
So
look
time
it
ago.
up.
this is why also, like, people are quick to say, well, it's in the laws, check the laws. Yeah, right, dude. You know what? Every single person on this earth probably breaks at least one law on a regular basis. I mean, I understand we have laws, but there's an intersection between laws and humanity. And by the way,
Mm-hmm.
in society, there is a tendency to back people that we think, okay, it's time to back these people, even though that's illegal or in the shadows or whatever. Again, humanity meets law. Then this is a perfect case of it, where I don't think the laws reflect what's going on. I didn't create
It's too
dispatching,
outdated.
and I don't defend it. I mean, I'm not saying it's the way to go, but I'm also not going to sit here and say they're a bunch of illegals.
It's
yeah.
interpretation still,
It's
man.
whacked.
It's
It's
still.
whacked, man.
And a lot of car hauling dispatchers too, Jay. They have contributed a lot in the industry in terms of actually even incepting the technology to facilitate the industry
Mm-hmm.
and to help the industry,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you have to be a
Amen.
car hauler dispatcher. If you're a car hauler dispatcher and you're dispatching, say, more than 10 companies, you are Googling a lot of stuff,
It's a
you are
lot of work.
researching a lot of stuff, you're doing
Way work.
quite a lot of work behind the doors that even the carrier themselves don't even know, because when they see the load uploaded on an app and the driver just goes to pick up the vehicle, there is a lot that has happened to negotiate for that load, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't even know sometimes that the load has been canceled 3 times,
Well,
because
that's
dispatchers don't have time to be telling the carrier that, hey, you know what, this load has been canceled 4 times. The
totally.
one that I actually uploaded is the 5th load that I called.
Oh my
So
gosh.
am
Or
I
read the
lying, Candy?
terms.
Exactly. If you could,
Yeah.
if you could update a carrier with all the motions you made,
Oh my
you wouldn't get
goodness.
anything done. No, it's crazy. The
Yeah.
misconceptions. I've seen somebody in the live chat here. That they're not into this either. There's a couple people that have not been into this discussion. That's fine and all, but I understand much of this industry because of all the hard work and pain I went through as a dispatcher. And
Exactly.
Yep.
we also know that's why so many car haulers know this industry so well, because they went through the pain as being a car hauler. And by the way, we don't own pain. Brokers go through all kinds of pain. I don't want to do that
Exactly.
job either.
Yeah. I was able
It's
to
a
develop
combination.
this technology, the Truckify car hauling app,
Right.
because
Mm-hmm.
I was stuck dispatching quite a lot of companies, and I needed to collate all this different data from everywhere
Yeah.
else to make it work in an instant time very efficiently, and everything else that was out there was not working for me. So I came up with my own idea that works for me, and this happened to work for everybody else, and
Yeah.
that is why a lot of people like the Truckify app.
That's a good, and I'm gonna use it more now that I've actually seen and know what it is. Because back in the day when I was dispatching, Dave Easy Dispatch, he was my lifeline. Between him and the company Carrier Soft, like they were my lifeline, because I don't even know when I slept. Like I woke up, I ate. Everything was about a car. Where's this guy? Where is he? Is he
There you go.
tricking off or doing what he's supposed to be doing? And you can't remember everything. I know I'm half crazy because of dispatch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, I mean, and that's the thing is, listen, that's also just when I talk about, truth and society and humanity, it's the people that work in the trenches that often understand the industry the most at that time.
Yep, absolutely.
And we have to be on the panel, like even with the software, on the technology, on the legal side of, so what if next month there are meetings and situations where dispatchers are going to be regulated more. We have to be present to have these conversations, to be able to know what we're talking about, to give real life scenarios. And that's why I'm so proud of a lot of dispatchers, because if everybody's on here has dispatched, I don't know if everybody has drove, but I've tried to drive down the road and dispatch myself. Those are the guys that I'm really proud of. And it frustrates me to no end when I see not just brokers, but consumers trying to dupe them, not pay them, to have contracts where, he hasn't read that 3-page contract on Central. Who has time except for a dispatcher, somebody sitting at the desk knowing that that's their job to be on top of it legally through the paperwork, administrative, because, man, half the drivers operating, dispatching and driving do not read a broker's contract, a dispatch contract.
And driving.
It's just
totally.
But that's the hustle. That's the difference between making the hustle to business. It's sad, but it's true. It doesn't justify it.
As soon as there's a lawsuit where a carrier killed people because he was trying to fill out a broker packet while he was driving, then we're actually going to get to it.
Wow.
It's going to take a death, right?
Yeah.
What were you doing when you smashed into a family of 5? I was filling out a broker packet.
DocuSign. Yeah. Trying to get an insurance certificate.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I was trying to get a lot number.
Yeah. A buyer number.
I was writing down the buyer number. Totally.
Third call, wrong gate pass.
I mean, that's the thing too. Listen, I'm all for the owner of a company doing everything, signing the checks, changing the tires, doing the welding, feeding the baby. I'm in favor of it. But is it possible all the time? I don't know.
Walking around Mannheim.
I'm not saying
looking
it is
for
or
a car
isn't. And this is why technology, right? Technology can help you. And that's actually, I didn't want to break in on what Hank was saying, but this is where technology can help the carrier take the power back by not relying on so many things that could be automated. But then you ask a dispatcher, could you automate your whole day? Pff, please.
No, but if you could do 50, man, I look at the software now, I'm going, I would have been, I would have still been dispatching, because if I did 37 on the operators with just easy dispatch and that's it, off muscle, and create my own little ghetto spreadsheets, I can only imagine, having this technology, what you could do.
Oh man, you guys. I just looked at the time. We're almost at 3 hours live, and I rarely go over 3 hours. And I feel like, while we haven't, there's no conclusion here. I think that just like here's what I believe, or here's what I hope for. I hope and believe that my Q4 2019 auto transport software update will be reviewed by marketing departments at tech companies. I also hope that this 3-hour show will be reviewed by some in the legal arena of dispatching and brokering within freight and car hauling, and that some, just like I think we saw Hank, I think we witnessed Hank actually listening to see if there was more information that he might need to gather on this subsect of the industry.
I was impressed.
That was awesome. He was really thinking. It was awesome. And I know I made him a little bit mad early on, but I did that 2 months ago also. But you know what that is? That's the passion of Hank that he has for the law. And I love that.
True.
And that's what.
But I think after the conversation with him, he kind of concluded and looked at it the same way that we viewed dispatch and car hauling, because I think he had a different definition of how we work as car haulers. I think he thought that the car hauler dispatchers were also kind of like how the freight dispatchers and brokers work, which is kind of a little different, right, Candy?
Yeah, about 50 shades of different.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, and I just, as I said
um,
earlier, I didn't want, I wanted Hank to just understand this specific example because he was really listening and trying to get, and that's actually, to me, that's one of the best things that can happen is that this industry, as we've discussed it tonight, exists where so many folks, I don't think they think it exists. I don't know. If it's just all con artists
yeah,
and scams, I just don't get. Just like, but here's the thing: is we know some people are never going to accept that brokers are legitimate. I don't agree with that either. Right?
or a necessity. Yeah, a legitimate, a
There
necessity.
are legitimate brokers. There really are legitimate brokers. I mean, I know it's crazy, but there's at least one person either listening now or will watch this show and be like, nope, there are no legitimate brokers. Okay.
Maybe just imagine taking them out of the equation, would allow people to look at it a little more differently if you started just thinking and removing brokers from the equation. I guess I wouldn't just say auto transport brokers, if we were going to talk about that specifically, but just removing brokers from there would be a lot of deals that were not made because, and like Ziggy, he runs his own, he's basically, to me, like a full brokerage house without being a broker, because he has his own customers, he represents his brand, so he's an all-inclusive, and that may not be the type of, individual cars, individual moves, speaking particularly the car, and individual deals. Everybody can't go make those deals. Everybody isn't qualified to make those deals.
That's the thing. Ziggy's business is at a level that I think everybody hopes to get to.
Yes, exactly.
But you don't start there. You don't start there.
No way. It's not. You could.
You don't. Anybody would go broke if they hired everybody and bought all the office supplies and did everything right now that they plan to have in 5 years. You'd be out of business.
Just office supplies alone, computer technology.
Exactly.
That's people.
I don't have the computer.
People making down payments.
Right. then we talk about how irresponsible they are. It's a no-win situation.
Not when you're struggling to come up with insurance down payments and, not even knowing what coverage that you have on your insurance. And I'm not saying
right.
that.
This is where we get. Well, this is where we get into other areas, right? And we get into business
exactly.
stuff. So, hey, Kandy, by the way, and let's do this. I want to wrap this up. Kandy, where can we hear? I've heard a rumor that you have a podcast. Is it a rumor?
Yeah, but no, it's actually real. But I haven't.
It's not
released? I guess I was shy.
Private?
No, what it was like. I'm trying to. Yeah, I'm gonna make it unprivate November the 1st. But what the problem is I'm trying to tone my mouth down. Truck driving put that little edge on me.
Nah, it gives you credibility, right?
I believe it, but sometimes people look at it a little, side eye. I don't really care. I guess I'm pretending like I do. I don't know. November the 1st.
November the 1st. All right. Well, you'll let us know. You won't keep it a secret from us.
No, I will. I will. I'll send the link. I've got the website, like everything already.
Okay, because
just press enter.
We need to talk about it because I've heard you do a great job of sharing auto transport intel. So I think it's only fair that we reciprocate. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
Thank you.
So we want to talk about that. And Muzi, we're going to be hearing. It's funny you said that, Kandy, because we're going to be hearing a lot more about Truckify soon, right?
Very soon, man. Oh yeah, very soon we're gonna be having a show right here on your show, Jay.
That's
the
right.
number one car hauling show in the United States of America.
Thank you.
Yeah, I invited a lot of new guys today. Like, man, I'm just proud of a lot of guys who are men and women businesses who are seeking out information and not just doing anything because it helps to get. Not just get your rate, or it's helping to educate to know what your value is as an independent auto transporter.
all these different tools.
Well, and I'm going to say this too, is that I do not create, this is not like copycat clickbait content. I work
True.
really hard to make educational shows, and it must be educational because sometimes the views are so low that it's got to be just dead boring. But I do it anyways because I think that this is really important. You know that if your podcast reaches 10 people, that's 10 people that really heard your message. Maybe only 5, maybe only 2, maybe it's 1, maybe everybody was asleep. But the point is that, I mean, it's not about, making another video about why I'm quitting, but I'm not really quitting, and all this stuff, It's about actually sharing information and asking the question, how can it be that it's 2019 and we've got this shadow industry that, according to the law, doesn't even exist? And there is all kinds of aspects in car shipping. I love it when I talk to an environmental research guy. He does emissions laws. He's in California. He works for a research company. I told him about the car shipping business channel, Auto Transport Intel, and he's like, "Wow, that's a really interesting idea." And I'm like, "Yeah, isn't it amazing that we have this multi-billion-dollar industry, and there's not a central resource?" But you've just got, just random info, misconceptions. It's so bananas.
There's a lot of tools out here, too. That's what I think, most about the show. It allows you to hear maybe something you might have heard before, but could have never heard, to hear about different tools, technology, to help you develop or enhance the business.
And I appreciate you guys being a part of it.
Nobody has that.
No, they really don't. Yeah. No, they don't. They actually don't. And that's one of the things too, is I've tried to extend my arm, bring people into the umbrella, and then, man, it just doesn't seem to work out. So that's why you guys, I appreciate you for joining and participating and helping educate and not just throwing out judgments and random negative statements. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Jay. It's always good to be on your show. And just to add on as a conclusion, maybe one thing that we may think of having on your show is if we can have like a show on just car hauling statistics to where we want to find out exactly how much revenue car hauling industry itself in the United States contributes, and also how many car dealerships there are, how many brokers, car hauling brokers, how many auctions, things like that, so that we can have statistics about the industry and, the value in terms of the exact billion-dollar amount of what car hauling industry contributes in the transportation industry as a whole.
Well, what's interesting is that those statistics, that stuff is tough to come by. And you'll get a statistic here and there, and I hope to do more compiling. So, yeah. I
50 Shades of Car Hauling, too.
50 Shades of Car Hauling. Yeah. Sounds like a
movie.
It
is. You think about it. You got auto transport. I mean, you can put it on. It's motor vehicles. Are you talking self-propelled vehicles? Are you talking high and heavy? Because, like Wagoner and those companies who do high and heavy cargo, transit vans or sprinters, that's still auto transport.
Yeah.
So it's not just limited to a 3-car, 5-car, high mount Stinger.
Well, and
any of that.
Wait in 10 years when the OEMs are cranking out EVs. That's just the beginning of the change. There's so many changes coming down between the new technologies coming, the new types of cars coming, and the way people are buying cars, the difference between what's happening with new cars, used cars. I mean, you throw in dealerships. I just shared it on LinkedIn today. There's a new partnership between Ship Your Car Now and 321 Ignition. You're going to have more strategic partnerships. We've already seen other large companies not only merge and then acquire new technologies, but to develop. There's so many changes coming. I'm so happy to be here during this time. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys will be on the panel more in the future. Muzi, I look forward to the Truckify show. It's going to be great. Uh-huh. And Kandy, I look forward to the Kandy's podcast show.
It's called ilovecarshipping.com.
ilovecarshipping.com. All right, so let's can I share that? I love Carshipping.com. I mean, we just said it. Cat's out of the bag. Okay.
I know.
And I'm not going to leave you out, Muzi. So we got ilovecarshipping.com, and then we've got Truckify.com. Trying to type fast here. Truckify.com. So you got to check those sites out. And guys, I'm saying goodnight to you guys.
Hey, thanks again for your time, Joe. Always lovely to be on your show. And thanks again, Kandy, to be on the show with you.
Thank you so
You're the same.
much,
Thanks.
you guys. It was awesome. Thank
Enjoy.
you so
Have
much.
a good night.
Thank you. You
Take
too.
care.
Peace out, you guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, in the live chat, we officially said goodnight to our guests. Man, that was amazing. I tell you what, I knew the show would go long, but that was even longer than I expected. I know. I've been wearing a crown for 3 hours. I doubt I will ever wear this thing again. I also hope that I hope the context is reasonable. This was a Halloween-themed show. We also, there's this assumption that dispatchers are in disguise as brokers, or brokers in disguise as dispatchers. I'm not trying to downplay the argument, but there is a lot of misconception about what dispatchers are, what they do, what service they provide, their legitimacy, etc. And it seems really strange because it's just, to me, it's an extension of the carrier trying to help make sure that the business works and that everybody makes money. But, hey, what do I know? So listen, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Next week, next Tuesday night, we got MCIEF. That's Motor Carriers Insurance Education Foundation. Tommy Rook is the interview. Tommy is heard on Road Dog Trucking on SiriusXM and other locations. He also hosts webinars and lots of education for MCIEF. You can visit mcief.org. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be at Used Car Week in Las Vegas. So 2 weeks from tonight, I'll be live. I'll be in Las Vegas. I'll be in a different costume. I'll be in my my suit jacket get up. You've seen that if you've seen me live at trade shows. Otherwise, you know that, yeah, sure. Take the crown off. Throw the hat on. You know what you got to do. There you go. What you got to do sometimes is you have to do something for the audience that you wouldn't normally do. I had no plans to do that. That's right. I have long hair. I normally wear it in a ponytail. My name is Jay. I'm the host of Auto Transport Intel. I'm the knight. I'm the king who says knee. Listen, guys, I really, really appreciate you tuning in. This is Tuesday Nights Live on Auto Transport Intel. I created the Car Shipping Business Channel. I did that to share information and hopefully help educate folks that are looking for more information. It's a gigantic industry. There's a lot to know. There's a lot of things you can do wrong, and hopefully at least once a week I help somebody out. That's my goal. Listen, I want to thank all of you guys for joining the live chat. It means so much. I do believe that I think the Washington Nationals. Yeah, the Washington Nationals won Game 6. So, if you tuned in to Auto Transport Intel and didn't watch the whole game, no worries. There is one more game coming. Wow. Insane. 3-3. Nationals and Astros. Man, I don't even really watch baseball. But I get excited about live events because it's pretty cool. That's why I go live. Listen, guys, thank you so much. I am going to be rolling the car hauler. I'll see you guys next Tuesday night. You can find me all the time at autotransportintel@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you soon.